Good day, good day, good day, good day, everybody. How's it going out there? Viewer discretion is advised. We're still in the midst of this thing. I got interrupted yesterday. Uh, I'll just say it like what it was. My mom had gotten hacked. It wasn't hacked really. It was sort of like they got one of those scam phone calls from a guy in India, like doing the whole like, their computer got hacked and they called her on her phone and like, you know, she almost fell for it until like somebody from the Walmart told her otherwise. Um, you know, about like it's like, oh no, this is a scam, don't fall for it. And she ended up changing her phone number, and like I got a text a little bit back a while ago, and it was like, this is my new number or something like that. And like I'm a very shoot first and ask questions later kind of person when it comes to cybersecurity, so I'm like blocked. And apparently that was her number that I blocked, so she kept texting me over the course of like a week or two, going, "Are you okay? Looking for Christmas ideas, things like that." And then like early on Saturday, apparently she said, "Call me right now, or if you don't do, I'm gonna try and call you, and if you don't call me, I'm gonna start like driving out to your place, driving out, toward Buffalo, and figuring out what's going on." And she called about the new phone number called about twice during the stream, and she left a voice message the second time, and I'm like, okay, I gotta stop because something's going on. So she was freaking out. Didn't do things in sort of the order she should have called first, I guess. Well, she texts a lot now, like, because she knows phone calls are kind of different, but I lesson learned, I guess. But anyways, enough about that whole situation. Hope you all are doing okay. I know we had a big election, and the outcome was not as I don't think anybody in the fandom really expected. We'll go over that in the future, though. Instead, we're going to do a game that's about its own version of horror. So let's go on with that. Anyway. So last we left off, I actually kind of lost track of the story a little bit in bits and pieces. Brian Dubois took Cameron and what's the other guy's name? Devin? In the van, and now they're in a cave. They're kind of moving away from the trailer. The cougar guy, I think it's Anton, or it starts with an A. Basically, found that rat slash weasel slash opossum character, and no idea what's going on there. But yeah, you gotta be careful these days. Like, I'm very much a like, oh, I don't know this text, block it. Oh, I don't know this thing, block it. Like, it can harm just as much as it can help, for sure. And I learned that this weekend. Being overcautious is just as bad as being undercautious. Might want to turn down the game a little bit, 19%. Is there preferences, I guess? Oh yeah, look at that. Way loud. Alright. Alright. No problems, Ganovo. Ramir said he's not going to be here tonight because he's still de-stressing from the outcome. We'll call it, that's what we'll call it. We're going to call it the outcome. That's my phrasing for it. Anyways. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that you were talking about for a second. I remember now. You sure do. Pathetic. Starting off strong, Brian. Brian continues to inspect Cameron as the coyote remains quiet, keeping a smile plastered on his face. This experience is too much. Thank you, game. Because, yes, it is a bit much. Have you ever heard of the term battle fatigue? Like, before I get moving on to this, like, the last 2 episodes have been really, like, the end of the 2 episodes ago and basically the whole of the last episode, like, this is literally battle fatigue, like, that I'm experiencing just narrating this thing. And it's interesting because it's like my brain sort of shuts down as I'm reading it sometimes, and it's like, and that's literally how, you know, folks who've experienced these kinds of things to a much more extreme extent like this kind of experience these things too. It's sort of like you block out certain things in your head and sort of like go through the motions, and it kind of feels like a survival thing. And so, you know, that's how you. I'm experiencing this as a reader. Like, I can only imagine like experiencing this in the real world, and that's sort of the power of narrative, which means it's well written if, you know, you're experiencing the things that people experience in these kind of situations. But yeah, it's a bit much, and so second time for your content warning. I hear that it's probably a few more hours. I think this will be the last one, but this is tame. My goodness, Strangelove, what kind of horror movies do you watch? I've been out of the loop for a while when it comes to the horror genre, I will admit. All of this is too much. He just wants it to, as I said, it's not my genre. Life is horrible enough. I don't need to add more to it. It's like what's the character's name from Interstate 76, where Taurus is like, it's like, and Jade is going to, or Vixen is going to her, going, you know, going to Taurus and going, how do you not like movies? He's like, I've seen enough killing. It's like, I don't need to fantasize about this stuff. It's bad enough that it happens in the real world. But it's, I guess that's sort of what I've kind of grown into when it comes to the horror genre. But anyways, enough rambling. Let's dive into it. He just wants it to stop. And he'll do whatever this bear, the source of his torment, wants if it prevents him from being hurt again. Guess I did bust up your chops pretty good, huh? Cameron flinches as the bear grabs his badly aching muscle in one giant paw. Wait, please don't. Ah! Cameron cringes hard, but tries his best to hold it still. That's true. Yep, broke your tooth too. Swollen up a bit. But you're cuter with all your face all messed up like that. Too bad it's gonna look real ugly by tomorrow morning. Not that it'll matter. Who's Dylan? It's just hard to look at you now with that stupid scar. Brian lets go and grabs his shoulder instead, at the same time glancing at Cameron's shirt. Oh, he was holding him up by his ears. I remember that now. This is the problem with me dropping it in the middle of a scene like that, which I kind of apologize for, because it's like, now it's like, I usually try to end an episode on something that is a complete thought instead of in the middle of a scene like this. And that's why, because like, oh yeah, he was holding a bump by his ears, and now he's grabbing him by the shoulder instead. Okay. You from Bridgetown, Timber City, or did you just pick that up at the Goodwill? I always say, when you're shopping at the Goodwill, never pick up clothes that have anything to do with a place. Fuck. Just a few years back, I took a Weston shirt from the Salvation Army and... Meanwhile, that third presence has shifted into something else a bit more familiar. This is that Dylan character. Brian's getting chatty again for the second dose he took. Anyway, I hear that city's overrun with Antifa and all that. A true liberal hellscape if there ever was one. Brian Dubois, 2028. It can't get much worse, can it? No. Anyway. His mother, following behind them, is holding his paw. Looking back, He can't see her clearly, but he knows it's her. It's okay. A lot of the time, it's outside groups coming into the city making trouble. He even sounds like her, defending the city they both grew up in, despite its problems, despite its streets becoming a stage for the country's culture wars to physically play out. Even while they suffered on the outskirts of what was supposed to be a liberal bastion lit up by the lights of tolerance and welfare, but instead glowing orange and from burning cars and flashbangs. And yet they defended it, because they both believed in its core principles. Now, though, maybe there was a reason, like maybe just maybe there was a reason we decided to stop. The forces of the universe decided to make me stop before this scene last week, because that is kind of that takes on a whole different meaning now that I'm reading it now than it would have last week, for sure. Ugh, God. Cameron looks behind himself while also looking back. He's taller than she is, and he's reminded of how small she was, how small she'd seen him now if she'd survived. He would have saved her too, if she had held on to a little longer. But how much longer? 4, 5 years? Could she have held on that long? No, not with her habit and the amount she was using. And though Cameron doesn't want to admit it, it was her death that spurred him to make the first serious change in his life. His mom wasn't a good mom. All things considered, she shouldn't have ever had children. But how can he judge? She was still a teenager, excited and in love, living out a 70s Chevy van, but all that came to an end when he was born in December of 1995. The next year, his abusive, probably schizophrenic father left and committed suicide sometime in the mid-2000s. But for a few months in 1995, his parents truly wanted to make a good life for him, and that feeling of love from the moment in time overwhelms Cameron. They wanted him to be happy, successful, and they thought he'd be the one to break the family cycle of dropping out and being broke. And even though they wanted that for him, they especially wanted him to be happy, to have a family life and a childhood that both his and his parents were only able to see other kids enjoy. They tried. I wonder how dated this story may become. It's supposed to be taking place during the pandemic era. So this is supposed to be like right in the cusp of 2020. But it's the most typical love story for people like them. Because eventually, like in all those stories, things break, then things settle. He'd done the exact same before Devon. She should have taken more precautions. She left him alone in the trailer often, her medications and recreational drugs freely available for him to experiment with while she was at work. He became an addict, just like her, and he had to come to understand the baggage that comes with that label. That it's not about a craving or a desire for something. Everyone has those feelings. No. It's about who you are as a person. A liar. A thief. A cheater. Someone willing to do anything to get whatever it is their addiction demands. Anything to feel good. Whether it's pathetically checking all the coin dispensers in a casino once you've spent your life savings, or pathetically combing through the carpet for whatever drug it is you're starting to come down from. The only thing that saved him from that life and death was his mother's insistence that he keeps his grades up. Of course, Devon saved him too, but he would have never met the bear without good grades and a decent ACT score. And despite her losing touch with her life in his senior year, that habit of academic discipline she drilled into him stuck. That's what got him a partial scholarship to the University of Pueblo. And that's what got him out of the trailer parks surrounding Bridgetown and into this state's flagship university. A few schools in his own state had better offers, but Pueblo was the most prestigious of the schools he got accepted into. A top 100 school with the best ranked nursing and engineering programs in the region. That, and at the time, Cameron wanted to be far away from Bridgetown, even if that meant the desert. And then he met Devin. She wasn't a good mom, but she was a great person, a wonderful person, and she did the best that she could with what she had at the time. She'd brought him into a chaotic, unstable life, a life that she saved multiple times, and while he occasionally wished his mother would have just let him die, now Cameron is only thankful. While most of his life was tough, the past 5 years have been better than he would have even dared to dream was possible. His life was perfect up until yesterday, when they got here. Tears run down his face, conflicted about what he should feel, but just knowing that he misses her, that he loves her, and that he hopes she's okay, wherever she is. This third person squeezes his paw reassuringly. Cameron squeezes back, and he's comforted by the feeling for the moment. He's sealed off from Brian and the town, and it's just him and his mom walking through these mines. She tells him she's proud of him for graduating high school and college, and she's happy he found Devin. Would she be proud of him if she knew what he studied? If she was still around? I would have majored in business administration or something. What did you major in? Smile. A gentle voice from behind him, barely audible, and carried on in the soft breeze that grows weaker the deeper they go into these tunnels. Music theory. And what the hell are you supposed to do with that? Teach. My gosh. This is like Pepper Coyote. Poor Pepper. Was this character modeled after Pepper Coyote or something? Jeez Louise. A coyote who majored in music, who taught music. Not everyone can afford Harvard. I mean, here's the thing. I think people underestimated how lack of education that most people have. Now, doing is just as good as teaching sometimes, and learning learning and committing yourself and learning on the job is, as long as you can dedicate it to it. It just takes dedication, whether you're going to school or whether you're going to go to a job, right? You just need determination to get through it, and commitment, and that's all it takes. And then eventually you can put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and you'll come up with something interesting and new sometimes. But that's the same with art, same with writing, same with STEM or anything like that. Anyway, since we're talking about all the crap we learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think at all. Yeah, the education level's not great. Sometimes you get some diamonds in the rough, though. Like, it's like, oh, Oklahoma's like a bottom tier, and it's like one of our biggest contributors at Flera, who, writes about furry material, is from that state. So, like, despite the world around you sometimes not being the greatest environment, some people can persevere through it, and sometimes it's what it takes. And as long as those people that persevere lift people up instead of bring people down, we'll be okay. As long as it's that. Anyways, back to the other horror. The automatic answer, the one he had prepared for, and all of his skeptical friends who were going into STEM-related fields. You a teacher? No, but that was my plan. Some plan. I mean, I didn't go into any debt, so I had financial freedom after I graduated. You're pretty coherent for someone that's on that many shrooms. Most people would lose their minds. Oh God, yeah, that tweet. Oh, that yeah. Oh, so for the audience who doesn't know what that tweet is, it was there was some supporters for Kamala Harris making a tweet on some young, yeah, like it was a young man association, like it was teenage boys, and they were like for Kamala 2024, and a guy responded to it, and the guy was like a person who was known to be apparently responsible for the basically killing of Osama bin Laden. He was on that team or something, and he's a right-wing sort of commentator on social media, and his response was, in the real world, you guys would be my you boys would not be men, you would be my concubines or something like. And it was like, what the? And so I just took that tweet and I put Brian Dubois' photo over it, as if he were the one saying it, because it's like, wow, yeah. It's like, oof, buddy. Men can be dangerous. Women are right. Men can be dangerous. And unfortunately, sometimes they can be dangerous to other men just as much as they are to our women's, as they say. And that's sort of the story in a nutshell, for sure. You're dreaming of eating them, aren't you, sir? Oh no. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Military humor is very dark. Anyways, speaking of dark, let's get back to it. Oh, I definitely am. I don't know. I have more control than I did the last time I tried it. In fact, Cameron feels like he's losing his mind right now, laughing even though it makes every part of his body ache. Xanax is like magic when you're panicking. Anyway, what is it that you do for a living? Did it all pay off? Judging by the tone in Brian's voice here, he knows the answer to that. Customer support for Helion. Sad. Working for a country that's been nuked twice. Back in the 80s, we used to beat people up who worked for companies like that. Cameron is at a loss for words, but only for a moment. Okay. Helion, the current so Helion must be like Tokyo, because obviously he referred to them being nuked twice. The current market leader in smartphone technology is Taiwanese, and Japanese. That's basically what they're saying. And the coyote assumes that the bear is thinking of a certain other country in the same region. Okay, so no, it's Vietnam or Southern Korea than it is. Okay. It's kind of weird when they're using like these weird pseudonyms for real life places, and you're like, okay, he's confusing Vietnam or Korea for Japan. Either way, it's a strange and disturbing aside. But that's just Brian, and sometimes with Brian, it's best for Cameron to just keep his mouth shut and also keep on smiling. So what music? You sing? Cameron wishes the bear would stop asking him questions, making small talk like any of this would be a routine part of their lives. But the coyote assumes bath salts will make anyone talkative. Kind of. What do you mean, kinda? Either you sing or you don't. Well, yeah, I mean, I sing, but I'm not very good. I mean, you fucking better be if you spent 4 years learning. How about you sing and I'll decide? It's getting harder to keep a cheerful charade as Cameron senses the cruel, malicious arousal rising up inside of Brian again. The second dose is making him do more than just talk too much. Sure. You just gotta think of one to sing. Anything you want to hear? I know a lot of 90s grunge and alternative rock. Heh. You a walking, talking stereotype, aren't you? You write your own music? I definitely tried. You know, one thing that really pisses me off is when someone's acting like an overly humble bitch. Either you do or you don't. Either you're good at it or you're not. Either you're offer something different or you fucking don't. So what the fuck is it? I do. I can. Just give me a second. The corner of Cameron's muzzle turns down slightly, his composure almost crumbling. He's doing his best he can under the current circumstances, but he needs help. Devin, where are you? Yeah, if he sings poorly, I'm sure this is going to go well. Brian's attitude shifts from one extreme to the next, making Cameron feel sort of an emotional whiplash, but as long as it keeps him from getting hit and, more importantly, killed, then he's fine with that. Tentatively, Cameron starts to sing, choosing the song that got him the most attention. The one that was played in a moderate rotation at Mountain West colleges, along with a few in the Northwest. A song about his ex, Dylan, about their mutual love and hate for each other, about the abuse they used to hurl at each other, physical and mental, and finally about their breakup. His voice is rough and cracked, and while some of it is because he isn't warmed up, it's mostly due to having his throat crushed. Dehydration and screaming doesn't help either. But aside from the jolting, each time Brian pulls him in a different direction, Cameron finds the melody and the rhythm. As he does, he becomes a bit more bold, singing loudly until his voice carries through the tunnels. It feels very strange with his swelling muzzle and missing tooth. Brian still says nothing, and Cameron realizes he's listening intently. While this makes the coyote nervous, he knows it's better than the bear being angry and manly. He just needs to keep singing. Devin is in the mines with them and he needs directions. Cameron just wishes it doesn't feel like he's leading Devin to his own demise. Finding the entrance wasn't hard. While the main entrance had been blocked off with rebar before being filled and sealed with concrete, he'd known about the side entrance from the supernatural forums he researched before coming here. That and Cameron's blood was sprinkled here and there, and the scent of it spurred Devin on. Of course, it led right to that entrance. He had started unlocking his cuffs, and second he thought Brian might be out of earshot. He had fumbled with the tiny, slippery key before freeing his wrists, revealing blood-crusted fur matted down to the broken skin. Now, Devin moves through the mines in complete darkness. Alright, so he left Devin in the car and he's bringing him into the cave for whatever reason. I remember that now. It's almost suffocating, almost panic-inducing, but the scent of Cameron mixing with the foul odor of Brian pushes the younger bear deeper into the tunnels. The air feels tense, as if the mine itself is intent on seeing what happens next. He's not going to fall into another abyss. When Lupitia died, it had been an accident, one that happened after a tornado shredded their town, leveling the block across the street, leaving their house mostly intact. As a 12-year-old, he didn't think that it could happen. They had survived the actual disaster, but just as the relief started to set in and his guards started to come down, it happened. He felt powerless in that situation, and he knew that her death had happened because of him. But this time is different. He couldn't fight what took Lupita, but he can fight what's taking Cameron. Damn it. After about 10 minutes, Devin starts to become more agitated. Unable to hear them any longer, and going by scent alone, Devin can tell that he's lost the trail. Shit. He hisses through his teeth, trying to keep quiet in case Brian is somehow nearby, lying in wait. And then somehow, he hears Cameron's singing voice. Devin goes completely still. He'd recognize his boyfriend's voice anywhere, of course, but Cameron's style is different, having the qualities of a singer from the 50s while retaining the grunge-like roughness. The coyote was heavily influenced by the black and white musicals his mother used to watch late at night. He was embarrassed about it after being critiqued in one of his vocal performance classes, and he had been trying to change his technique when Devon first met him. But Devon always liked Cameron's voice, and it was due to Devon's urging that Cameron learned it into his style. He knows the song too, the one about Cameron's ex, the one that he doesn't like to hear because it's violent and vicious. He never asked Cameron about it because he assumed the coyote would bring it up on his own time. Now, he needs to make sure that he has that chance. Devon begins moving as fast as he can while staying quiet. He knocks his nose into a few walls and scrapes his elbows and shoulders, but he keeps moving, simply trying to force his way in the direction of the voice. Then, just as he thinks he's a few turns away, it stops. Then Cameron screams and Devon drops all attempts at stealth. "Cam! Brian!" He calls out to let Brian know he's there, to at least distract him from the coyote. Then he barrels his way through the darkness, trying to find out what he's sure is the last turn. Why Brian had brought Cameron here, he does not know. He does not know, even though what he's going to do when he meets them. Well, anything. He'll do anything. Brian is looking a bit more distracted, starting to scan the tunnel wall before his eyes settle on what looks like a large crack from the ceiling to the ground. Cameron turns up his singing a notch, knowing that this is their destination, the end of the road. The old bear glances at him, looking annoyed. This, for whatever reason, is what brings Brian out of his stimulant-induced hyper-focus. Brian finally realizes what's happening. It's only now that the old mayor remembers Cameron's plan to take the key. Even Cameron forgot. But now, a huge paw flies to his pocket, digging inside and realizing it's too late when he whirls on Cameron. "Oh, you little faggot." Cameron turns and runs, trying to take advantage of Brian, letting him go for those couple of seconds. Something pounds into Cameron's lower back just to the right, and it feels like a cannonball being smashed through his body. Cameron is launched forward against the tunnel wall directly in front of him, and he tries to hold on to it, sliding down slightly as he stares straight up into the darkness. Kidney shot. Oof. It's so dark Cameron can't tell if the ceiling is a few feet above him or it's simply endless space flowing and glowing arches that stretch on forever. His eyes stay wide, his breath leaking out of his muzzle in a slow, high-pitched rasp, not wanting to believe the pain he feels spreading through his insides is real. Then he's on the ground, writhing and groaning uncontrollably while electric pain spiderwebs through his body. The blows Brian had delivered before are nothing compared to this. Cameron thrashes around in the dirt, desperate to find out a way out of this hell. He is in hell. Who's in hell? He has to be. What are these red arches, and why are the flames spreading from his guts into his lungs? Damn. You'll probably only piss blood after that one. Ryan's mock concerned voice snaps Cameron back from the situation he's in, and in the very back of his head he realizes his trip is beginning its descent. The pain is still present though, and it's not letting up. How can he feel pain if he's nothing? He's finally breathing again, but each exhale is accompanied by a whining wheeze, involuntary tears rolling down his face. Brian leans over him, and the coyote cringes. No. Stop. Please. Brian pauses, then just grabs Cameron by the arm and yanks him up. Don't do meth or bath salts. That's always good advice. Cameron lets out a hoarse, breathless scream as his aching body is forced to move again. It echoes, wrong game, around them before cutting off as a huge arm tightens around Cameron's throat. Cam! Brian! Devin's voice is very close, maybe only a tunnel or two away. Brian mumbles quietly next to Cameron's ear. Shut the fuck up right now, or I obliterate your other kidney. Got it. Cameron feels the throat threat hovering over the left side of his back this time, and he quickly shuts his muzzle, even though groans still force their way up, muffled behind his lips. This seems to at least satisfy Brian as he drops the chokehold before shoving Cameron forward. At first, Cameron is surprised that the bear didn't just hit him again, anyway, but Brian's distracted again. Devin's too close, and a few terrible plans go through the other older bear's head that causes Cameron's already aching abdomen to lurch with nausea and fear. Brian considers waiting and ambushing Dev, but he quickly discards the idea as he realizes Cameron might try to warn Devin by making noise right after he reaches them. That's exactly what Cameron would do, even if it means being beaten to death by Brian. Deciding again that nothing matters anymore, he pushes Cameron forward through the narrow opening, the passage becoming more tight until Brian has to turn sideways to struggle through, and then it opens up. Cameron smells death. He instinctively backs up right into Brian. No, 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 please don't do this. I can't. I can't. He can't finish his sentence. Brian's victims felt pain that still seems unimaginable to the coyote. Knowing Devin is close behind them, Cameron makes one last effort to turn and dodge around Brian, but the bear is far too large, and he easily grabs up the coyote and throws him further into the hollow. Cameron comes up immediately, trying to suppress his whines and whimpers. Brian, just wait a second. Think about it. I can help you. Why did you bring me here in the first place? Brian gives Cameron a disappointed look, but he does pause, and that gives Cameron some hope and some time. Let me talk to them. Let me see if I can reason with them. We both know that all of this is over. Cameron senses a slight shift in Brian's intentions as the bear begins to seriously consider Cameron's reasoning. I know you need my help. I can feel them. They want you, Brian. They're waiting for you. I know what it can be like, walking in circles for most of your life, making the same stupid mistakes and knowing that what you need to do is to get better and just never doing it. Oh yeah? But I finally did, and my life was almost perfect. Until I met you. So let's do it. Let's end this nightmare right now. Brian takes a deep breath and holds it. The entire mind, the entire town, seems to hold its breath with him, and Cameron starts to understand how deeply entwined this bear is with this place, this entity that seems to be pulling all the strings. Cameron can feel the monolithic entity shift and turn, as if it is too and senses an inevitable end. Brian is close to taking the coyote's offer, but it isn't meant to be, and Cameron, of course, knows that. A scoffing from the entrance announces Devin's arrival. Guess he's finally here, huh? Glad I bought my 10 gauge. Always want it. Make sure that you got good firepower when bears are involved, eh? Cameron watches in horror as the older bear opens up the shotgun and inserting a shell. Cameron's mind is blank as he automatically lunges at the huge bear, grabbing the shotgun barrel as Brian snarls in rage. Everything is falling apart here, spiraling. Devin shoves his bulk through the narrow passage, squeezing through the hollow on the other side. When he stumbles into the open space, Devin spots Cameron immediately, and the coyote being swung left and right as he fights Brian over the shotgun. I don't want to walk around in circles. Oh gosh, that was the. I remember that song. That was from. That was on that Cartoon Network short with like the Hanna-Barbera cartoon characters. But ghostly bust of violence changes everything, though. Cameron is covered in blood, tears matting the fur on his cheeks. The situation is already a terrible one, but again, his fear for Cameron turns to anger at Brian as he sees the bear throwing vicious, crushing kicks at Cameron's lower body. Devin realizes this is it, and he has no time to think. Devin charges up behind the older bear and bites deeply into the side of Brian's neck. Apparently, biting someone other than himself is a lot more effective, and he feels his canine sink into the flesh beneath the thick fur. The old man is covered in a layer of protective padding, just like himself, but the older bear clearly has a lot more of it. Still, Brian screams, high pitched and full of fury. Then, Cameron is finally shaken loose from the shotgun, and Brian grabs the barrel with both paws before ramming the butt of the shotgun into Devin's stomach. The younger bear retches and crumples over, but he manages to grab the shotgun, holding on the stock tightly. Brian, clearly aware of how bad the situation could become for him, lets go of the shotgun so he can throw an elbow into Devin's face, bashing the left side of his muzzle and face. This stuns him and gives the bigger bear time to turn around and throw a knee up into Devin's hunched form, an inch above the navel, almost the exact spot he'd hit him earlier. Devin feels it as his guts are flattened to his spine before liquefying, the force actually lifting him off the ground for half a second. Even though he lands on his feet, he immediately sinks to his knees, his muzzle wide open as he continues to battle his own lungs, all while still trying to hold on to that shotgun. You're a dead man walking, boy. Well on your knees anyway. What a surprise. Yeah, I'll share it with you, Genovo. It's called if you look it up the song on YouTube. Actually, you'll probably find it. Just look up like Flintstones soul coughing circles, and it wasn't a cartoon. It wasn't used in the show. It was sort of like a bumper, what they called. Brian fumbles shakily to find the stock of the shotgun, hidden somewhere under Devin's bulk, while simultaneously trying to avoid the end of the barrel in case Devin is able to find the trigger. The attack had been enough to rattle Brian, even if it was short-lived. Devin curses himself, trying to move, knowing he probably can't win, but he needs to do something. Maybe hurt Brian so bad that Cameron can at least get away. Get up. But he can't breathe. There's not much he can do to defend himself, let alone stand up. So Devin keeps his hold on the shotgun, even as Brian starts trying to yank it from his weakened grasp, and he's starting to succeed. Cam, run. Devin rasps, not even sure where Cameron is right now, assuming he still might be on the ground after being kicked so many times. Brian squeals. Looking up from his doubled up position, Devin sees Brian in front of him bent over as well, the grizzled bear grabbing between his legs. Oh, did Cameron kick him in the nuts? Come on, Cameron. As Brian sinks lower, Cameron appears, lowering a foot. The coyote smiles with relief and joy seeing Devin, seeing that he's got the shotgun. Cameron seems so sure that they've won that he doesn't see Brian's quick recovery, the old bear forcing himself up, murderous vengeance in his eyes as he runs at Cameron with another animalistic scream. Devin can only watch as the huge bear charges at Cameron. No! The much smaller coyote can only yelp in panic before Brian smashes him into him and crushes him against the wall. Devin hears a crunching sound as he gets his first tiny sip of air, just as he hears Cameron's own air wheeze in a yowl-like moan. And then, even more viciously than Devin had attacked Brian, the old bear begins to maul Cameron. Brian bashes him left and right, with blows aimed at the coyote's face before Cameron collapses. There, Brian begins to rip and tear into the coyote with his claws. Devin begins to move, but it's slow, and he just wishes his lungs would start working. Cameron tries to crawl away from Brian, and Devin sees the horror mirrored in his boyfriend's eyes. Then Brian comes down on him again, and Cameron throws his left elbow back at the bear's face, only for Brian to sink his teeth into Cameron's forearm and elbow. Cameron lets out a yelp and curls around Brian's muzzle, scratching and biting at it with his claws and teeth. But then Brian twists and tears, and Cameron lets out a yowling sound, his body twisting violently. He's on his back now, and he goes quiet, staring in shock at the wall he's lying perpendicular to. His eyes begin to roll up as Brian thrashes his head, and a crunch comes from Cameron's arm. The coyote can't make any sounds now, the breath seemingly knocked out of him by the pain. Devin has never heard Cameron make those feral pain sounds, not like this. The shotgun had opened up at some point during the struggle, and Devin drops the awkward weapon, too intent on saving Cameron to figure it out right now. This is why you need to learn how to use firearms, people. you need to learn how to use a shotgun. Come on. And to see him in so much agony that he can't breathe, can't even vocalize it anymore, it gives Devin the final push he needs. He charges into Brian, and the force knocks the old bear off the coyote. Devin has never seriously mauled someone his entire life, but it's something that comes naturally to him and Brian. And while he had played mauled people in the past, including Cameron, this is the first time he brings his claws, his teeth, and muscles to full use. Straddling the older bear, Devin roars at Brian before lunging down. First, he bites Brian's neck, but from the front this time, while his paws rip and tear at the bigger bear's hide. Brian seems to concentrate for a second before burying his fist up into Devin's stomach with a deep, muffled thud. But the younger bear is tensed up this time, and the fists get no further than his stomach muscles. Still, Brian's power is almost supernatural, and Devin lurches forward and grunts, folded over, an ache forming deep into the pit of his belly. But this only makes him bite harder. Devin can feel that he's truly stunned the old bear for at least an hour, and as Brian takes his fist back, he resorts to panicked shoves instead of actually trying to fight. When Brian finally does try to claw at Devin's face and eyes, the younger bear leans back and smashes his head into Brian's muzzle. The sound it makes indicates a broken snout, and Brian lets out another high-pitched whine before screaming and trying to lunge up to bite Devin's neck. Devin leans back, just avoiding the teeth before smashing his head a second time into Brian's face. Then, as Brian lays dazed, Devin lays into his snout 3 times, full force, trying to pound every bit of agony into Brian that the old bear had given all to them. That would be impossible, though. Still, Devin feels a savage satisfaction as he sees at least 2 of the old bear's yellow teeth rolling out of his muzzle. Brian howls and rolls violently, finally dislodging the slightly smaller bear. Devin heaves for breath, watching as Brian comes up several feet away, crouching and also heaving for breath. You. Brian can barely form words, but not just because he's out of breath. His bitter hatred is evident, so mad that only frothy spit flies from his lips as he sputters. But then Brian's eyes flick to the right, and Devin remembers all at once that he had left the gun there, having been focused on helping Cameron. The old bear moves. Hey, second typo of the game. I think they last episode. I think they misspelled two, like two typos in what is it? Frickin' 3 hours. Oh, I know. Sorry. Like it's been what this is our fourth session. So two typos in that amount of time is not bad. The old bear moves lightning fast once again and then shoots off to the right. And Devin realizes Cameron is there too. Yeah, they missed the end. Cameron, look out! Cameron, lying in agony after Brian's vicious attack, knows something is deeply wrong with his body. The crushing against the wall of the chamber had done it. The true pain, though, emanates from his left arm, and Cameron knows that it's mangled, broken, and useless. But he can still use his legs, and Cameron forces himself to get up and start moving for the shotgun, hearing the snarls and growls of the bears behind him. He does his best to stay quiet, but stifled grunts and small squeaks force their way out of his throat. As soon as he touches the shotgun, though, he hears Devin shout, "Cameron, look!" Again, the nightmare that is Brian is tearing through his body, pinning him to the wall, and Cameron screams in terror as the huge bear starts trying to bite his neck. The panicked coyote is only able to get his unbroken arm up. It's maybe only 3 seconds before Devin is there, but it feels like an eternity. Cameron considering how badly it might feel to die from having his throat ripped out. Cameron's right arm is torn up as well, but since Brian isn't shaking his head this time, the bones at least remained intact. Then Devin wrenches the bigger bear off of him. Cameron tries to get up to crawl, but it's useless. His body too beaten and broken to do anything other than dragging himself away. Then he hears Brian's high-pitched squealing again, and this time it's genuinely terrified. Cameron looks over and sees the old bear is now back with his arm on his back, with his arm in a sort of hold by Devin. Devin is lying on his back, Brian's arm pulled up towards his chest. Devin's hip close to the older bear's shoulder as his legs lock together at the ankles. Devin grunts and heaves with all of his might, his true, powerful body arcing towards the ceiling. Devin is intent on really hurting Brian this time, wanting to make sure he pays the old man back for Cameron's tooth and arm. So, with the tooth part avenged, Devin focuses on the other bear's arm. Bare bones are especially hard to break. Devin had never broken a bone in his life, but the younger bear knows a thing or two about applying force. His dad watched MMA all the time, and while he knows little about fighting, he knows why arm bars can be so devastating. Even as he leans back, bending the big bear's arm over his inner thigh, only a few cracks are heard, but it's nothing serious. Devin needs the arm to have it less resistance and more distance from the fulcrum. Unlocking his legs, he takes just a second to slam his foot into the older bear's jaw. For a second, Brian goes limp, and Devin relocks his ankles before lifting the limp arm away from his chest and curling up. Then he heaves his body on the arm again, arcing hard while he twists his body. Torque! Now you're thinking like an engineer. Yeehaw! Anyway, as the that's dark. As the catchphrase from one of Devin's old professors comes to his mind, a crack splits the air, and Brian's scream somehow reaches a new panicked pitch. Devin looks over to see Cameron has dragged himself a few feet away, leaving a dark, horrible blood trail smeared behind him. There's a lot of blood, and Devin panics, thinking the coyote is bleeding out from his neck. Devin stumbles over him, hovering his paws over the coyote's head. Baby, your neck. Let me see it. He didn't get me. Let's go. Cameron is in no shape to run, so he groans as Devin lifts him into his arm, the bear starting to stumble toward the exit. Devin looks down at the coyote in his arms, just now seeing how terribly Cameron's injuries are, and then he glances back. shocked to see Brian standing. Oh no, he's got the shotgun. How did the old bear able to get up without making noises beyond Devin? Ugh! The butt of the shotgun, powered by the old bear's huge body, slams into his side, spreading a sickening ache in a wave through his body. Cameron hears the dull thud by the vibration through Devin's thick body, but he feels the bear cringe as he sinks to his knees, huddled over Cameron. The huge bear lifts up the shotgun he'd managed to keep a hold of. He struggles to hold it up with only his left paw, and his injured right arm dangles before he practically swings it as a prop to prop his right elbow against the wall. A few pops coming from his shoulder as he does. He screams again when that happens, but with his fully functional wrist he can now take steady aim, and with how narrow the hollow is, there's nowhere to go. Don't you fucking move, you got that? This is over. I'm killing that yote in front of you, and then I'm ripping your fucking arm off, boy. Brian's expression is an odd mixture of excitement and disgust. Pity, you ain't as half as cute as the pup. Devin can only wheeze in response, and Cameron holds onto him tightly as he's cradled in his arms. God, you fucking ruined it. He was perfectly fine till you showed up. Now he's fucking fucked up to the point he's not even fuckable. Cameron's ability to see and his thing and feel things is fading, just as the effects of the shrooms are fading. There's still a bit left, and Cameron tries his best to use it. Devin's body begins to tremble, and Cameron holds onto him more tightly. Devin's voice, still breathless, whispers into Cameron's ear. Honey, whatever happens, just play dead, okay? No matter what. But Cameron suddenly turns. Devin watches as Cameron's face becomes a bouquet of red ribbons, and the bear stumbles as the shot hits his arm as well. Cameron's body jerks violently in his arms before going incredibly still. Devin quietly looks down to see Cameron no longer with a face. Everything that used to make up his face is splattered against the walls, and it still pours from. Cameron is gone. In shock, Devin looks at his arm and sees the white of bone shards, and at first thinking it's his own, but then he sees a few of Cameron's sharp teeth embedded into his arm. Devin leans over Cameron's body, an expression of untold anguish on his face as he lets out a low, terrible groan that rises in pitch to the bearish bull. Now, before we continue on, looking back, it was sort of foreshadowed when we were talking about when he said like engineering kind of things, right? Where you try to avoid cataclysm, and the fear that he had of his curiosity and moving forward and the risk that it would take. That it sort of makes sense that this is the direction he would go. It's still going to be like, oof. All right. Anyway. Oh. Okay, so it was a flash forward. Never mind. Oh, it's funny that I said that. It's like, oh, okay, that makes narrative sense, I guess. And then it's like, oh, okay, it was just the game messing with me. That's great. Clip that. Anyways, after looking forward, Cameron does the only thing he could think of. No. Cameron grabs the barrel and shoves up. The sound is so loud that it instantly deafens Cameron, and though the ringing starts to subside, the hearing in his right ear doesn't come back. Cameron? Cameron! I'm fine, I'm fine. Cameron looks to where Brian is. The kickback from the 10 gauge had hit him hard, squarely in the chest. Yeah, you can't really hold a gun that well with one arm. Uh, Cameron can almost visualize the stock sent that old worn out heart and eventually exhausted him from the stimulant in the fight. The old bear, still on unsteady feet, stumbles back a bit more before hitting the wall and sliding down it to sit. Brian sits propped up against it, looking confused. He clutches his chest, rubbing it and grimacing. The shotgun is on the ground, out of Brian's reach, and the old bear makes no move to get it. Fuck. He starts to try to get back up, but then falls back down. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Brian clutches his chest and stomach and groans. Oh, no. What was it? Is this it? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the... Brian slumps back as his body convulsing. He thrashes about as if trying to escape something. He knocks over and smashes the electric lantern, crushing it under his weight. For several more seconds, they both listen to Brian's groaning, rasping and snorting before it's silent. It's quiet for a little while longer, Cameron and Devin not daring to move. Brian had seemed invisible for so long. Cameron can't get himself to believe that it might be over. Devin whispers into Cameron's ear. Cameron, how do you feel? Cameron gives Devin a look that's a mix of love and exasperation, even if Devin can't see it right now. They both know how he's badly fucked up. I think something's ruptured. It feels all wrong. Cameron places his right paw on his torso, wincing. Don't move, okay? I'll get us out. I'll get us out in no time. Devin starts to tentatively make his way forward, and just as Cameron is realizing how long this might actually take, possibly too long if it is internal bleeding, his vision flickers. Cameron stares at it, and looks at Devin, wincing at the bear's bloodied and bruised face. But Devin doesn't react to the light, like Cameron is the only one seeing it. But a shroom trip can't emit light no matter how hard you're tripping. I think I can see where to go. Just walk straight. How? Cameron starts to shake his head, then stops as his neck sends a pang of fiery pain down his back. I don't know, but I can see. Let's get out of here, please. Cameron tries hard not to look at Brian's crumpled form against the side of the walls of the hollow, his wide open eyes glinting from the gentle glow. Okay, just tell me where to go, okay? And sure enough, as they leave, arch after arch appears, and Cameron is confident they'll lead to the exit. These arches had tortured his mother, but this feels like his mother somehow. As they move, they both hear rustling sounds far behind them in the mines, but Brian is definitely dead, or at least they had been when they left. So they keep moving, trying to keep quiet. Then, within the hour, real light. Daylight. Devin looks down at Cameron and winces just as like Cameron did when he saw Devin's face. God, honey, we're gonna get you help. And you're gonna get better, okay? But what about you? Do you feel okay? Cameron's voice is weaker than it was earlier, and Cameron feels Devin quicken his pace. I'm fine. Devin says it sternly, setting his jaw, and Cameron stays quiet.
Cameron, I'm sorry. And that's the last time you're saying that to me, okay? I don't blame you for anything. I'm just so glad I met you.
He listens to the bear's heartbeat, steady for most of the journey, but getting faster as they get closer to the exit.
I think I hear a helicopter and maybe a megaphone. Shit. Did people come for us?
The shotgun blew out my hearing, so
I'm not really sure.
His trip is mostly over. Just these visions are so vivid. Cameron stares at this new arch, and something about it feels different.
Oh. Mom, I found it.
Huh?
Her arch.
You're seeing arches?
You know how something can happen that's so impactful? It splits your life in two. Like, you see life as before, and after that moment, it can be good or bad.
Devin hesitates, like he wants to answer the question he's just asked, but he lets it go, for now.
Of course. I think meeting you is the good divide in my life. I think what happened here and what's going to happen after, I think it's the bad divide.
It had always been his mother's death and still is a divide. But this time Cameron realizes he's been deeply affected mentally, and it's not something he can just recover from. Something's truly wrong with him. And that's been the case for a long time, but now after this, something's been pushed over the edge. So another divide.
I think we're gonna be okay, Cameron. Devin, whatever happens after this, I love you and I'm so happy I've met you.
Come on. You didn't have to say the first part. We made it. Okay, it's just a fork in the road.
Oh, Devin, Artie's alive. He went to get us help. I think. I hope.
What? How?
I don't know. He got shot, but he got away. Brian was pissed. He's hurt, but I think he made it.
Oh, that's... Devin's lips tremble and his face twists up slightly as he tries not to cry. But it's incredible relief and happiness. Cameron doesn't tell him how bits of Artie are missing, or that he can't sense him anymore. Both because of his waning powers and because Artie is too far away. At least that's what he hopes. Cameron stares up at the arch, looking both beautiful and terrible at the same time. Raincoat Monster stands to the side as they pass, and this time, Cameron doesn't think it's his old hallucination. Cardboard and unmoving, just like he's always been. But something about all this, the way he's seeing things, something has changed. It's not his psychic abilities, because now it's subtle and hardly noticeable again. No, something else happened, and his mind feels wrong. Looking forward is no longer clear, but as Cameron uses the last of his psychoflin in his system to peer into the future, he becomes afraid by what he sees. So he just turns his muzzle slightly to Devin.
Cameron, we're going to make it.
Based on what he saw, Cameron isn't sure. Devin will stay. He was able to see that much, but should he? More than anything, they both want to stay together, but if Cameron becomes a burden to Devin, he doesn't know how he can stay. He just hopes that Devin can still love him after this terrible change, and he hopes he can fight it, whatever it is. So Cameron leans his head against Devin's shoulder, smiling in a mostly happy but in a bittersweet way.
Alright.
Alright. Now let's get the hell out of here. The terrible change comes almost exactly 3 weeks later. Cameron had been feeling strange ever since they got back home, like he wasn't quite himself. After a flurry of hospital visits, police interviews, and even harassment from the media, things had become strangely quiet. He's a broken road. Brian Dubois was a serial killer, with a victim count in the double digits, with all the murders taking place over the course of nearly 4 decades. That would get national attention, of course, especially since Brian appeared to be involved in the high-profile disappearance of a college freshman last year. The body cam footage of their dramatic rescue from the mines even made the rounds of social media for about 2 days. At the same time, a pandemic was picking up steam, and all the media attention focused on that instead. Cameron didn't mind. The lack of attention made his recovery much easier. His burst liver and severely damaged kidney left him needing surgery. The hospital did what they could for his elbow, and his doctors were hopeful that with a lot of physical therapy he could at least use it for basic necessities. While it did suck to maybe never be able to bend his elbow correctly or without pain, what really devastated Cameron was the weakness and constant tingling in his pinky and ring finger left him feeling like he was losing his mind. So for now, despite being eager to get it back to it, guitar was an absolute no. For now. What about forever? On top of that, Cameron had been trying to banish that damn voice from his head. No, the negative thoughts from his head, right? Just a flashback, one of the shitty leftovers from his shroom trip. Either way, all he could do was try to ignore it, despite it making itself known at least once a day. Cameron, something's wrong. But things continued to feel strange. It didn't seem to be related to his ESP, because he could easily tell when that was happening. Ever since his shroom trip, a haze of psychic ability lingered around him, allowing him to capture thoughts and feelings seemingly at random. Downloading is what some people like him like to call it. He didn't have much control, though. Sometimes he wasn't even able to tell if the download he was receiving was from the living or the dead. Cameron even began to try to hone his abilities and experiment with just how much he could do. What he quickly figured out was that without some sort of illicit substance, his clairvoyance lacked a real deal of fuel that had powered his abilities in Echo. That would make it easier, and it would be so would being in an active location like Echo. Echo is only one of those places, though. There are so many others. Here, he's a desert lake. Every now and then, Cameron would find himself pausing as a chill would run down his spine, like he did near the back door of Devon's parents' house. The feeling always meant an echo was attached to something, somewhere nearby. That's what Cameron called the beings. Not exactly intelligent or even living, but entities that interacted with and usually threatened the living. In that particular case, it emanated from under the back porch. When he told Devon about it, the bear knew immediately what Cameron was talking about. Oh yeah, I'd hear someone moving under there all the time, like a person crawling around. Even Dad says he saw red eyes under there once. Being more sensitive doesn't exactly answer questions, though. Like, why is it there? Where does it come from? What the hell even is it? All he knows is that it's not a person, and it never was a person. Because they're all demons. And while Cameron had seen that old spark of interest in Devon's eyes, he had told Cameron to just ignore it and focus on their visit for now. And also to please not to maintain it to his parents while they were there. Devon just wanted everything to go away quietly like it never happened. That included Cameron's abilities. That was at the end of the second week, and over the course of his life, Cameron would looked back on that visit as one of the last times he was truly himself. He's a trailer home in the Southwest. By the third week, Cameron was recovering at a remarkable rate, and so Devin began to pay Artie more visits and made phone calls. Arturo's improvement was also rapid, but Cameron's was left feeling a little sad that Artie never asked or asked to talk to him. It would only ask Devin how the coyote was holding up. It made sense, he would tell himself. Devin and Artie go back farther than Devin and himself did. Sure, something had felt off, but considering the circumstances, nothing was normal at the time. But as the third week progressed, that what had been bubbling below the surface made itself fully known. The only thing that seemed to be getting back to normal were his dreams. Sometimes he'd wake up whimpering or crying, thinking he was back in Echo. Devin had it far worse, waking up in a howling panic, yelling about guns, chains, and death. Those were the times when Cameron did his best to give comfort and support, at least as best as his patched up and sore body could manage. But now, as time grows between him and what happened, Cameron feels like a part of him is missing, like he's not fully present. It's like pieces of him littered the town of his trauma. It felt like he was still there in a way, and when that feeling really started to settle in, that's when it happened. A small pressure in his right ear started to develop. It was known that he was sure had to do with hearing loss he had experienced from the shotgun blast. It was irritating, and it felt bizarre. They had set up another appointment with Cameron's audiologist a few weeks from then. The hearing loss was likely permanent, but then something began to replace it, right in the middle of the afternoon. Cameron starts working again that week. April 2020. In case the beginning of the pandemic didn't give away what time it was. He wants to feel useful again, and because they're both working from home now, it seems like a reasonable idea. Devin didn't want him starting yet, of course, and Cameron wants that sense of normalcy to come back faster, and his shitty job had seemed like the perfect solution. Trying to work with mostly one paw comes at a bigger challenge than Cameron had expected, not realizing how much he used his non-dominant one. Typing is particularly slow, but he was getting better at managing it. Still, it makes him sluggish, and even though his boss is understanding and even telling him to just forward any rude customers her way, it still leaves him occasionally flustered in ways he isn't used to. From the toilet paper fights. Yeah, that was the other tweet I made. It's like I'm stocking up on 4 years of toilet paper just in case. After a rather harsh call that begins with "Thank God, someone I can finally fucking understand," then ends with "You know what would have been faster?" Cameron waits for the answer. Anything. This is the last time I buy some chink ass phone made in some shit factory. Cameron rubs his eyes, wondering how different the interactions would be if they did face-to-face video calls. This phone was actually assembled in the States after Julian pledged. It's not the answer the man wants to hear, Cameron can tell before he even gets cut off. Transfer me to your superior, please. Of course. One moment. As Cameron reaches for the button under his button to his boss's line, he hears the man muttering under his breath. Didn't know they hired retards for customer service. Click. No big deal. He would get one or two of these every week, and according to coworkers, it's gotten worse since the pandemic started. But why did that one hurt his feelings so bad to the point where his eyes started to well up with tears? Maybe it's because he'd been to hell and back and that man has no idea. No idea. Then his computer screen seems to move further away, like he's seeing a dolly zoom like vertigo. Pressure grows in his right ear, and he realizes that maybe that's what's causing the strange feeling of being off balance as the world tilts. But no, he's tripping again. In a flashback, just a flashback. No, it's brain damage, and you'll probably feel like this forever. Brian poisoned you. Cameron holds very still, positive he didn't think those thoughts just now. And you are a fucking retard. Can't handle a little literal customer stereotype. Just smash the keyboard and admit you can't work anymore. Brian brings a paw to his right ear, where the voice came from. Is his headset still on her? No. And you can feel me in your ear. What the fuck do you think that feeling was? You stupid shit, absolutely worthless. After that, Cameron remembers very little except panic, followed by confusion, a ton of confusion. His thoughts make no sense. The voice that is definitely not his in his thoughts doesn't make sense, and now he doesn't understand where he is. The voice continues to encourage him to smash the keyboard, so he does, just to see if it will break the bizarre half-dream. Devin, in his own study, hears this. After finding Cameron sobbing on the ground, surrounded by black plastic keycaps, the bleeding from his reopened stitches, a frantic Devin drives him to the hospital. Maybe I'll stop if you grab the wheel and turn it into the median. For old time's sake. And he doesn't even need a fucking fan. Look, Mom, no fans. October 2020. About 7 months after Echo and 6 months after his first episode, Cameron feels worse than he did right after Echo. The voice that had wormed its way into his damaged ear had disappeared just a few days of antipsychotic treatment, but it returned again and again every few days. Whenever he feels rejection or guilt, whenever he gets into arguments with Devin, and really whenever it pleases and it makes itself known. It comes in a deep masculine voice, though sometimes it's Brian-like, in how it taunts and laughs at him. Hey, I picked up on where he was going, and I picked the right voice. I love it when we're in cadence. Short asides that were sometimes mean, sometimes meaningless, and sometimes boring. All about things Cameron would do and the people he would see. It feels like it's trying to remind Cameron things aren't as okay as the weeks continue to come and go with manageable but clearly present psychotic symptoms. He had worried his broken arm would stop him from being able to play music as well as he used to. Turns out he didn't have to worry about all that because he doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like a switch, his interests, his motivation, his want to do anything productive or useful just seemed to turn off. His thought processes had become wrecked, and the disorganized thought during his episodes became present even when he wasn't having one. His mother said she needed meth because it fought those feelings that her psychosis brought on, which was brought on by the meth, a vicious cycle. And speaking of which, he finally got his diagnosis. Schizophrenia, likely induced by his genetics combined with the drugging and trauma in Echo. Not that it really matters what induced it, because the problem is that he has it. There's no taking that back, after all. Propranolol for restless, from akathisia, and words I'm never going to be able to pronounce in my life because I'm not a doctor. Esticatrolopram for depression, trazodone for sleep and depression, metformin for managing weight loss, Goulian for tests, tics, and PTSD, and clozapam as needed for anxiety, panic attacks. He tried Xanax at first, but a taste immediately caused a panic attack so bad he couldn't even get it down. There's a familiar burn and tension in the right side of his neck, and his head tilts to the right before coming back in a sort of twitch movement twice. Tick, tick. The symptoms of schizophrenia are devastating enough, but so are the side effects of the antipsychotics to treat it. Side effects that are covered up by medications that cause even more side effects, which in turn are maybe more tolerable. The first antipsychotic he tried made him too tired, and his flat affected unnerved Devon, even though he never said it. So he was finally switched after 4 months. This switch had dysregulated his dopamine, according to his last psychiatrist, and this in turn meant that the motor and vocal tics he once thought were gone are now back. But they weren't just back. They got to come back with a vengeance, to the point when he got especially emotional, his neck would sometimes his body would go into an uncontrollable twitching fit. At least back when he was a kid, he can control it to some degree, or at least disguise it. His vocal tics would come up at the worst moments. By the way, I also kind of suffer from that verbal or body sort of twitching thing. I understand what that is. I've had that sometimes when I get anxious. I'm going to stay silent to a certain point. Ask your doctor if your junk is right for you. Oh, yeah. Here's an antidepressant medication. It can cause suicidal tendencies. Like, wait, that's no, that's a horrible side effect. Are you sure it's working, doc? Are you sure that's a side effect? Or are you sure it's working, doc? I don't know. I'm lucky. I am very, 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 very lucky and very, very fortunate to not be on that wheel just yet. His vocal tics would come up at the worst moments, and talking to anyone other than Devon would result in awful humiliations that sometimes even triggered psychosis again. Made him feel like some kind of freak show. But even with a vocal tic involving his diaphragm appeared, one that he'd never had before, Cameron really began to disappear. It would force him to exhale for 10 or 15 seconds before holding it until he nearly blacked out. Then it would release and allow him to gasp in air again, vision coming back through blurry tears, only for it to happen a dozen more times in agonizing waves. It was so distressing that each time it happened, it triggered an episode, and he'd be left with so many tics happening at once that even Devon couldn't communicate with him. The familiar threatening tightening of his abdomen signaled the approach of another tic, was enough to make him whine and cry in dread. All of this because of that damn pill that he was supposed to help him. 3 or 4 of those vocal episodes every week, and Devon had enough and found a different psychiatrist. This changed everything, and Cameron found himself trusting her far more than he ever did the first psychiatrist. She immediately switched him to another antipsychotic, one that she said would help his tics too. Still, when Cameron had been ready himself to take his first dose, he broke down and he'd cried like a child. He even begged Devon not to make him take it, which just made the whole situation so much worse. What if it caused more problems to show up? What if it made him worse? Cameron read about all the horrible lifelong side effects that antipsychotics can cause. Movement disorders like Tourette's syndrome that can stick around even if you stop the meds. All from these little pills wreaking havoc on synapses of his brain, changing him forever. More poison, more brain damage. The pressure pulses in his right ear, and Cameron rubs it vigorously. You're the brain damage asshole. Fuck you.
You always blame everyone for your problems, huh? Why don't you take the whole bottle? Pathetic faggot. Think you can talk to me like that, schizo fuck?
Remembering the management techniques his therapist taught him, Cameron takes a deep breath.
Okay, time to take my medication. It's been a few weeks now, and my tics have decreased by over half. And I haven't been breathing tics in 4 days. I feel like this is good progress.
Ooh. Is that your hip thing there, Strange? That's tough, man. Hopefully it does help. I really do. Hope it helps.
What you think is positive symptoms have decreased by maybe 30% over the last week. Good progress. I just hope my negative symptoms improve as well. That's my goal once I reach stability.
His thoughts were his own again, and that makes Cameron feel at least a little bit better, knowing that some things are coming easier. But only a little, because while he knows he's taken plenty of steps forward, it seems like he always ends up back where he started as soon as something goes wrong. He begins opening his pill organizer and pulls out the most important one. At least the psychiatrist had been right, and for once, Cameron can at least see the road to the new him. Despite tolerating ziprasidone much better than the last antipsychotic, it still causes the same side effects that make him need to take all the other meds. At least it's making his tics better. Tick, tick, tick. Though he doubts he will ever truly go away without being on medication. Devastating on its own, but still controllable. Manageable with time. Oh, you got surgery in 6 months. That's good. He has to believe that. The sound of pills rattling against the plastic seems way louder than it should, and Cameron hears Devon shift in his study. Oh, you're taking them now? Just a sec. That was fast. Cameron mutters under his breath, feeling a little resentful, knowing that Devon had probably been listening in his thinking out loud technique. Cameron sighs and picks up the pill again, staring at it closely, as if to see its molecular structure, engineered to block the dopamine receptors in his brain. The root cause for most psychoses, at least at the molecular level. It's more complicated than that. Always is. Devon comes in with just his underwear on. A year ago, it would have been a sight that Cameron would have appreciated. He probably just put his arms around him and rubbed his face into his chest like he used to. But his sex drive was killed months ago, either from the meds or from one of the many symptoms of schizophrenia, and it's just another reminder that he's not who he used to be. While sex is the last thing on his mind, Cameron knows it's important in their relationship. He occasionally would force himself to do it and pretend to enjoy it, but everything aches now, and in the end, he finds himself staring at the ceiling. Devon, of course, notices that and eventually suggests that they wait until Cameron felt better, until he actually wanted it himself, which only made Cameron feel worse. Devon's libido is stronger than Cameron's ever was, so he knows it must be sexually frustrating to the bear. But right now, Devon is just standing there, smiling pleasantly as he watches Cameron. Making sure you take your poison. He wants your brain damaged more than it already is. A jolt of fear. A dip into the nightmare of unreality. Cameron feels anger at how easily the voice slipped into his thoughts again. Useful poison. Cameron winces at the crazy coming out of his mouth. Sorry. I'm just thinking out loud. If that's what you're wondering. Okay, that's good that you're doing that. Remember, it does seem to act up right before you take your medication, so don't worry about it too much. Yeah. I don't need you to watch me anymore. It's quiet as Cameron swallows the pill, angling himself so that Devon can see when he follows it with the rest of the 5 or so pills he holds in his paw. Cameron finishes swallowing those, knowing that in an hour he won't be able to keep his eyes open, cutting short the time he would have to spend with Devon. They don't really go out anymore.
Right. Or do you still not trust me?
No, I agree with you, but we also agreed I'd do it for at least a year, just in case. Even if you said you were fine, remember? Cameron hates the fact that he's right.
Yeah, because you don't trust me.
Spitefully, Cameron turns to show Devon the underside of his tongue, as if the bear might be suspicious that he's hiding it. Cameron.
You want to do a cavity search too? Hey, maybe that could be our solution. I take my meds, and you get to play with my ass.
Cameron feels the burst of anger from Devon, and for some reason it feels good. That's kind of fucked up thing to say, don't you think? Why would I even care about that right now? Devon already sounded angry, way quicker than he usually does. Then Devon provokes him like this, and suddenly they're in a fight. The ones they never had before Echo.
I know you care about it, Devon. I can feel it from you every fucking night.
Are you kidding me right now? Cameron should do something to help him, to soothe him, but instead he wants this fight. For a moment, he even wants Devon to hit him, to punch him right in the face and end everything as they know it.
Kill him, grab one of the knives.
Imaginary flashes in his mind's eye of a knife sticking out of Devon's neck. An imaginary scene he never asked for, but it's insistent, showing him various ways he can use the knife. Not much for them to lose anyway. It would free Devon from the burden of Cameron's brain.
Why do you want me to take my meds when I don't want to anyway?
Pretty different from college, right? This is so different, Cameron. I know I talked shit on stuff like that before, but this is not the same.
Yeah, because this is actually dangerous. It's because I'm a problem to you now. And you just want me to take whatever will make me act halfway normal. Even if it makes me feel like shit.
I want you to get better.
I'm going to get better, Devon. I'm not going to get better, Devon. This is permanent.
That doesn't mean you can't get better. That's the whole point.
And then I'll relapse.
If you relapse, we help you get better again.
I probably won't even be able to get off the meds. You know I don't even care about the stupid voice anymore, or even the tics.
Or I'll make you care, you piece of shit.
Shut up!
Cameron's voice shouts, reverberates across the kitchen, and he senses all the typical emotions he gets from Devon these days. Worry, distress, fear, pity. Tick, tick, tick. Cameron takes a second to refocus his scattering mindset, this train of thought that seems to derail mid-sentence.
It feels like my soul has been sucked out, and I don't know if it's the meds, or the crazy, or just me, but I hate it.
I hate it too. I hate it so fucking much. I hate that you feel this way. That's why I'm doing this.
But you don't even have a fucking clue what this is like. No one does. They just think that you're on meds. It's all good.
You're right. I don't. But you think you're all I think about almost every minute of the day because I see you suffer and I want to stop it.
Lies, idiot. Fucking faggot. Better stab yourself if you don't stab him. I'm probably suffering because of the meds. It's like back in college, but 10 times worse. I can't write or even listen to music anymore. I don't want to do anything.
Come on, Cameron. This is the main reason people relapse. Remember what the psychiatrist said about the time and patience for yourself?
But what's the point of taking meds if I feel this way? This isn't living, Devon.
You need time, a year at least. Maybe then we can start tapering off, but not now.
How the hell will I get off this shit if I'm constantly spazzing like a freak without it? They're already speculating I'm treatment resistant. That idea makes his stomach churn with dread and anxiety, and he even feels his diaphragm tensing up slightly. He'd read too much medical literature, enough for him to likely have a shitty quality of life up to 30 years off his life expectancy, and no end to being a burden on people around him. Cameron feels a burst of anxiety from Devon, too. Then we'll try again, right? Well, Cameron never thought hard on what he might do. He does suppose he considered ending it. If this is how the rest of his life will play out, he's sure he will eventually. But only when Devon isn't here for him to take that blow. Hates you, wants you to die. The voice continues to talk, and Cameron rubs his ear, trying to ground himself emotionally, exhausted and feeling detached. Right. The obvious signs of Cameron's symptoms being aggravated seems to bring Devon back down as well. The bear quickly hugs Cameron. I'm sorry. And I just want to remind you that she was talking hypothetically about you possibly being treat resistant. So we can prepare for anything. Despite his sore, sensitive skin, it feels good after the burst of anger and despair. I'm just sad. I'm sad because I had such a good life with you, and it feels like it was just yesterday, but it's just gone now. Strange that he can remember his past life so vividly, the feeling of his brain being semi-normal. Devon squeezes him tighter. You always talk about the new you, and how we just have to wait for him to get here. We'll have a new life. It'll just be a rough couple of months, maybe a little longer. Cameron sniffles. What day is it anyway? Like the 15th? The 24th, I think. I forgot that your birthday was last week. I just remembered now. Honestly, me too. The hardest thing about the particular argument for Devon was he was completely empathized with Cameron. He can't imagine being in that situation, made to take medication that changes him so fundamentally that he's not in full control of his movements or even his breathing. The coyote is justified in being angry, sad, childish, and sometimes outright spiteful. That doesn't mean that it isn't unsettling for the Cameron lash out and cry in ways Devon had never seen him come close to before. At points, it feels like he's watching the destruction of a life in real time. It leaves his stomach feeling hollow and sick, like it always did after Brian had to go with it. The thought of the old bear makes Devon so angry that now he wishes the man were still alive. At least then he'd have a chance for him to knock him out a few more times of his teeth in court, during the victim impact statement or something. And the stress continues to build as Cameron's condition remains unstable. The transfer was scheduled for November, and Devon is trying to type up an extremely apologetic and professional email to explain the situation, and also request a possible video meeting to delay the transfer. It's a reasonable request, especially considering the state of the world at the moment. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, his breath picks up speed. Confused, Devon watches the edges of his vision begin to darken. He can't figure out why he suddenly feels like he's going to pass out. The first thing that comes to Devon's mind is Arturo's older brother, who died of a pulmonary embolism after what was supposed to be a simple surgery. The one that Artie talked about casually while high, even though Devon knows he's still devastated by it. Devon stands up from his desk, walking, then sinking to the ground as the room spins. Cam, I need help, please, I can't. Before he can stop himself, he blurts out Cameron's name, simultaneously questioning whether that's a good idea or not. Cameron seeing his boyfriend die in front of him won't exactly help his mental state, so it's better to probably sleeping like a rock right now. He pulls out his phone
as he's on his knees, having pressed the 9 and 1 before a very groggily sedated Cameron comes in, and its expression of bleary confusion turning to fear. Don't worry, I just can't catch my fucking breath. A look at recognition over the coyote's face, kneeling in front of Devin. He presses the bear's head against his chest. Devin, it's okay. We're okay. Breathe with me. Devin's not sure what the problem is, but just after a few seconds it stops. Are you okay? I've never seen you like that before. Devin sees Cameron's neck tick twitch multiple times and he immediately feels like an idiot. Here he is having a stupid, breathless panic attack while Cameron is having vocal tics and trying to force him to almost pass out from not being able to breathe. Devin tries to get himself to go back to bed, but Cameron sleeps on the sofa in the study, determined to see if Devin needs him again. While Devin feels like he should be the one doing the comforting right now, he's glad to have Cameron here. So that's what the coyote feels like when he's panicking. A scary moment, but Devin doubts he'll be able to feel this. He'll let that feeling sneak up on him again now that he's familiar with it. He had considered therapy and medication, like he's constantly trying to find for Cameron, but a part of him has to admit that he's scared too, after seeing what the coyote had gone through. Besides, he's not bad enough. He needs that help. He'll settle on what happened. He'll settle on what always helped him deal with the stress in the past, which is being active. Exercise will be good for both of them, actually. Once he sends his email, he'll figure out how to renew both of their gym memberships, assuming the place is even still open. Devin steps out of the gym, taking a breath of the frigid February air. There aren't many cars or people on the street, not this early on a Saturday morning. Probably because they're all sleeping like they should be. Devin instinctively begins to reach out for Cameron's paw, but he's not there. He hasn't been there for a while now, almost a year. Well, what he used to be is still there, at home, in the urn sitting on Cameron's old dresser, along with all the coyote's other little possessions that Devin had kept. It hurts even more because he's almost certain that Cameron would have loved this city. He would do a better job remembering what Cameron isn't right next to him if... Quit thinking about me like I'm dead. I'm not. I'm thinking about you like you're physically gone. I do miss being physically present. I guess I could be dead, but it doesn't really matter. You're not dead. I'm just like your vessel now. That is such a creepy word. Just say like I'm your passenger. By the way, you reek. It's Saturday, so I don't have to work. Besides, I'm not taking a shower when their air dryer temperature is room temperature. I mean, I didn't say I didn't like it. It's from a fresh workout. Devin grunts as he makes his way through the parking lot towards his car. You were pushing yourself really hard, to be honest. Take it easier next time? Taking it easy is what got you... hurt? Anyway, the more echoes that we kill off, the better. I doubt we can have much of an impact, Devin. This shit is old, ancient even. It's a lot bigger than us in a lot of different ways. I just want to see how well this works out. If it can be done, maybe we can tell others about it. Start a movement. To kill off haunted places at the source? How many people have their dead boyfriend in their head giving them psychic abilities? Well, I won't tell them that part. Just the psychic part. Ah, gonna take credit for my abilities. Hey, I'm learning to fight too. You see how much I've bulked up? Devin flexes his muscle under his winter coat and padding muscles and wishes he'd had when he fought Brian. I don't know. I didn't know you could punch ghosts. And I wish he'd get a different coach. He beats you way too hard. I knew what I was getting into. Anyway, remember about the source?
Usually it's some shitty people feeding these places. Oh, well, punching real people sounds worse, actually. Either way, this is all a good workout. You should he should be happy that the coyote is still talking to him. That he's still with him, kind of. I miss you. Please don't do that, Devin. I'm right here. I want to hold you. You basically are, and I'm giving you a big emotional hug right now. I might also be feeling out your muscles too because you have bulked up nicely. Thanks, Cam. Cameron that avoided the shotgun that survived. He's had these dreams a few times. Oh! Oh, dang! Pulling the double ending. I like it. Oh, okay. So this is the pill thing was if Cameron survived, and this one is now going back to if Cameron had died by the shotgun shot. At least he simply thought them to be traumatic nightmares from a traumatic event. But this is one of those dreams that feels so real he almost can't tell he's dreaming. They're not really nightmares either. Usually they're mundane, kind of funny, and kind of sad. The dreaming Cameron for some reason doesn't trust this passenger Cameron at all. His version of himself feels off, almost like there isn't a soul to go with him. Otherwise, he sounds and acts just like he does, or did before the diagnosis. It makes him wonder if he'd trade off given the opportunity. Cameron isn't waking up, so with little else to do, he reaches out mentally and digs into this other Cameron a bit deeper. What he sees lasts only a second. After tearing out Brian's throat, this Cameron immediately began communicating with Devin. It's not an illness, not like what Cameron has, but it's still Echo. It's part of that town, and Cameron doesn't want this Devin to. Devin, he's back. A feeling difficult to describe comes over Cameron. It's something from that dead Cameron, that entity that acts like and talks to Cameron. The thing that is currently attached to that Devin. He's tied up, bound with rope to the foul-tasting rag gagging him. The big bear has been gone for over an hour, but no matter how hard he tries, he can't make the zip ties and chains move. And then his stomach churns, and the deal Brian made had brought him at the bar starts to come back up. He's going to throw up, but he's chained down on his back with a gag in his mouth. He's going to throw up, then he's going to drown. Vomit threads his mouth. Cameron leaps out of bed and one paw over his muscle. He stubs his toe horrifically on the door frame to the bathroom, bending back the claw so that it's left bleeding and almost ripped out. But he makes it to the toilet in time to retch up a small amount of whatever it is in his stomach. His name was Alan, a rat, Cameron thinks, but the coyote can't remember his last name. The last name of the man who drowned in his own vomit. Cameron sobs, both for himself and the poor young rat that lived a short, hard life only to end by choking on the shitty food Brian lured him in with. After a minute, the coyote calms down and listens, thankful that Devin is an incredibly heavy sleeper. What he seen definitely happened, and even though the police stopped trying to interview him after learning about his schizophrenia diagnosis, he would still put in an anonymous tip tomorrow. Cameron knows that there's at least twice as many victims as the police know about, and he plans to report every single one that he sees. Half a year later, Cameron finally starts to feel as if he's starting to live life again. Not his old life, but a new unfamiliar one.
Tampering down his meds along with the exercising definitely helped, which is why he came here with Devin to visit Arturo. When he sees his old friend, he feels a bit better, just based on the shape of his amalgamation. It's a bit more full, and while it's still damaged, it's also at peace. Cameron knows that feeling. He's different now, and he's accepted that. But he's still Arturo, which the cat has come to accept too. He's just different now. Changed like everyone changes. A terrible, dramatic change, but one that can happen to anyone. Things always tend to get worse, but they tend to get better too. And Cameron knows this by looking at Arturo. While the coyote did just want things to see his old friend, he also wanted to know a few other things. His methods are morally questionable, but he justifies it since he's tired of being kept in the dark. An hour before they get there, Cameron eats a piece of chocolate from the backpack he brought to their stay at the motel. Devin complains when Cameron says that this is the last one, but the coyote knows the bear would lose his mind if he knew exactly what Cameron did. And that was microdosing psychoblin. Stupid, idiotic, unbelievable when it could cause him severe lasting damage. Idiot. It might have been triggering his schizophrenia, but his abilities increased tenfold even on this tiny amount. Besides, it made him feel better. Of course, he'll tell Devin when more time has passed, but the bear has shown almost zero interest in the paranormal as of late. Maybe he'll just tell him he's taking it for a bit of a mood lift. For now, he just wants to take in the emotions in the conversation. Well, what I'm trying to do is get rid of this damn limp. That's what people notice most if I'm not talking. Cameron smiles pleasantly, despite the fact that Arturo is more guarded and fortified mentally than anyone else he's met, which is the last thing he had expected. I actually didn't even notice. Ah, well, you will next time you see me walk. Anyway, I hear you're working on your masters, Devin? Every stutter, every struggle feels like a physical blow to Cameron, but he tries not to show it. He knows Artie doesn't want useless pity right now, and Cameron always hated it too. Yep, at the University of Deseret. Sweet. In what? Mechatronics or robotics? Of course, and that's, how's that progressing? Good, just finished my first semester. And the place you're working at, they're financing it? That really quick? I'm at the same company. I always was part of the plan once we moved. I still gotta graduate for them to reimburse my tuition, though. No pressure. I don't know how he does it all. Work, school, gaming, cooking, and you're all good at all of it. That's just like him. He'd party and drink the night before a final and ace it while hungover. Cameron is close enough to Devin to see the skin flush under his fur. While some might find Devin to be overly humble, it has more to do with a sort of imposter syndrome. Cameron knows it must be awkward to be praised for not having to study or work as hard as his fellow students and co-workers. Despite that, Cameron still feels proud knowing his boyfriend is already inching into a leadership position at the company. He has no doubt the bear would do incredible things in his career. So how are things going for you? What are you doing these days? Weren't you thinking about going back to school at a specialized school? Yup, Spectrum Solutions Academy. And I'm already back. Went back as soon as I got vaccinated. Still in RBT. Working with kids with low functioning autism. How is it? Great. It was almost like going back home. I'm supposed to have like 2 clients, but they're gone about 5 on me now.
Uh, they are so happy to see me, but they could tell you something's a bit off about me, though. Sounds a bit rough. Is your recovery going well? I like to call it progress these days. Most noticeable part of the recovery is over, I think. Oh, I see. Cameron's slow response is mainly due to him being distracting, having finally deciphered Artie's general thoughts, feelings, and emotions. In that moment, that guard had slipped, and Cameron realizes Artie knows he's a psychic. Of course, he told him that, but now he knows it and truly believes it, and for the past 2 years, he'd realized how much of this happened because of Cameron. Arturo is afraid of Cameron. The cat senses the strangeness, the offness of who Cameron is now. Arturo also wonders if it's possible that the coyote brought a piece of Echo into the house with him. The shadow entity, it entered and never came out as far as Arturo knows. Who's to say that it's not still? Maybe it's like a management phase? That's what Cam calls it. Anyway, right, honey? Devin is probably confused by the tension, tries to add more to the conversation. That's right. That piece of shit hurt you really bad too, huh? Yeah. Really, it's the schizophrenia. I was diagnosed with it afterwards, and I'm still trying to manage. Cameron brings up his diagnosis, if only looking for some sympathy or understanding. For a moment, Arturo's expression becomes genuine sadness. Yeah. Devin mentioned that a while back. I'm really sorry that you're going through that, Cameron. Was it from what happened? I hope it wasn't the weed. No, I'm pretty sure it happened after that pushed me over the edge. I see. That makes sense. Do they think it would have happened anyway eventually? Maybe. They think I might have been in a pre-dromal state for years. Looking back, I can tell that I was on the brink for a while. But he'll never know. At that moment, though, he feels like he and Artie have made a connection. Artie understands that they have completely different problems, but they're both life-changing. And the two of them are bound to these problems for the remainder of their lives. But then Artie senses that darkness, that bit of echo emanate from Cameron again, and his mentally recoils. It's been a rough road, but we managed to find some stability at the end of the last year. God, it's such a pain in the ass trying to settle on the right meds. That took Maria a few years, I think. Hey, Maria! There's a rustling from the hallway, and the young licker comes from the living room. Maria, clearly having been very nearby in the hall. Why'd you go? Just wanted to give you guys some space. We were just talking about how long it can take to adjust to meds. Maybe you can give him advice again? She leans in and gives Arturo a kiss, and Arturo takes it without a single hint of embarrassment or annoyance. Another solid rock in Artie's life, and one that will stay until the end. While Cameron could never normally invade someone else's mind like this, the coyote doubts he'll have many chances to do so again in the future. He needs to know if Artie's on a good track or not. Maria turns to Cameron, and because they themselves have been friends for years, even a little longer than he's known Devin, he can tell that this is weirdly set up. Oh yeah, antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. It feels like I've been through almost all of them. Yeah? They all make me want to sleep all day, but also tear out my fur and crawl out on my skin. I remember feeling that way a lot, all the time. I guess you kind of get used to it, or it got better, but it depends on the person, of course.
Cameron likes Maria a lot, and just like Devin and Arturo, they slip back into their old swing of things. It's nice, but he can't help but notice he's being swept out of the conversation with Arturo. Anyway, the main reason I wanted to get back to work this early is because I needed to feel normal again. Sure, things are harder now. The stuttering memory is shit. Can't really depend on the right side of my body anymore. But fuck, it is nice not to be cooped up in here wishing things were different. The only thing work has complained about is that I guess my inhibitions are a bit lower than they used to be, which must mean that they are non-existent now, right? I swear I'm not trying to be a dick, but I haven't even noticed that. Oh yeah, they said something about too many words, too little tact, like 3 years ago, so I'm pretty sure it just made me but magnified. Cameron turns his full attention back to his own conversation. The effort of trying to figure out what's going on while keeping up with what's being said is far too different. I can kind of tell that it might be affecting you now, but sometimes it's hard to tell the side effects from symptoms of psychosis, especially the residual negative symptoms. I mean, positive symptoms are obvious, but making your thoughts flow normally again? Making yourself go back outside, talk to people, live? That tends to come back last. And sometimes it might come back a little different. Maria has been suffering from her disorder for years longer than Cameron and senses her reluctance to say what might happen. Sometimes it doesn't come back. You'll always wish to just be who you used to be, but learn to live with it. Now, while he tries to hold a conversation about psychotropic meds with Maria, he realizes how much things have changed. In fact, if Cameron's visions hold true, this will be the last of a handful of times he'll speak to Artie. It hurts. It leaves Cameron feeling a deep pit of guilt, shame, and even a little anger, but mostly because it's unfair, and he can't blame anyone. But as he watches his old friend laugh and talk to Dev, almost like what happened never happened, Cameron sees a long, solid friendship ahead of them, and he's happy for that. Cameron realizes, even without having read minds, that Maria is specifically there to keep Cameron distracted, to keep him away from Arturo. That finally shuts up the psychic part of Cameron's brain. Rather than leaving a hollow feeling, he's left feeling like he's been punched. Why are they treating him like a monster? Like he's the one? The final thought he receives from Maria, and deep down under their concern for Cameron's diagnosis, she's wondering if he's prodding at Arturo's mind. Arturo can sense him. His own sensitivity is subtle, almost too understated to be picked up on, but it's there, and that's why he feels like Cameron is carrying Echo with him. Cameron is mainly worried that Arturo knows what he's doing right now, and his neck and cheeks become warm, feeling like he's been caught in the act for the first time. Then Maria mentions something about how she's a tardive dyskinesia? I don't know what that means. And Cameron focuses back on their conversation, genuinely curious if it's gotten better for her in time. And that's how the rest of the afternoon plays out. The reason he'll only see Arturo 2 or 3 more times in his life is because of Arturo or Maria. Isn't because of Arturo or Maria. It's because Cameron knows he can't come back here and cause them stress like this. Cameron is no longer a part of their lives, and he simply can't be, no matter how hard any of them try. Despite the hurt from learning their thoughts about him, Arturo's future is, if he has to sum it up, a happy one. And who can ask for anything more than that? But he had to work hard to get to the right track, and even though Cameron knows luck is just as important as in life-altering experiences, seeing Artie content gives him hope. Time continues on its steady, unrelenting march in March of 2023, and it begins with both good and bad. The pandemic falls into the background. Global instability and war comes to the forefront. Money becomes tighter, and the world keeps moving on, as it always will. It still leaves Cameron almost breathless at the idea that he'd changed their lives in one weekend. While he was never really personally hated anyone to the point that he'd just hurt them, he does now. But that person is dead. He got the easy way out. For the first year, Devin wasn't sure how he'd continue his life. Cameron was either always sedated to the point of almost becoming unresponsive, or angry or sad to the point he'd just sit in the bathroom and cry. The feeling of helplessness of knowing that Cameron wanted to be dead, that he'd give up so much that he ever told the bear he'd take opioids again if he could. And so, Dev started doing things that he didn't want to do. Checking Cameron's drawers, pockets, and the side of his closet when he wasn't around. He's angry at the medical professionals who sent Cameron home because he simply had intrusive thoughts. Condition that causes involuntary repetitive emotions in the body. Thank you, Ganovo. This had relieved Cameron, though Devin was unsure. In fact, he knew it wasn't right, but Cameron was so happy, and it seemed to stop the episode. But then, over the next 2 days, he went in a deep psychotic state. His intrusive thoughts were actually thought insertions, and by the time they got back to the hospital, he was screaming that he was actually dead. He accused Devin of planting speakers in the walls and video cameras in the mirror, which he shattered. Over the first month, it was a normal sight to see Cameron sitting up in the bed, brushing away non-existent bugs, completely unresponsive to anything Devin would say. But that's 2 years behind them now, and Cameron is finally starting to really live and become someone who seemed to enjoy life again. Because while the positive symptoms and of delusions and hallucinations had been practically absent for nearly the past year, the negative symptoms lingered. Devin had read about that over and over. Lack of motivation, lack of interest in things that once gave pleasure, lack of expressive emotions, and thoughts of confusion and disordered thought. It was the anhedonia that scared Cameron the most. It scared Devin too, because what's a life worth living if you don't want to do things that you're trained and inspired to do most of your life? Despite being able to listen to music again, Cameron decided a few months back to finally hang up his guitar. Cameron's paw is still weak, and it still has a slight tremor to it when he holds it up. But Cameron hadn't touched his keyboard either, leaving it unplugged and dusty in their basement. The sight made Devin far more sad than it did Cameron. He still wonders if he'd been more of an advocate for Cameron, maybe pushed for further observation. They could have stopped the psychosis before it truly spiraled. Maybe he'd be his old self. What's wrong? You reading my mind again? No, I can read your face. Devin doesn't want to bring down Cameron's mood. He's the one that wanted to come out and walk around in the snow, and if Cameron wants to do something engaging and active, Devin will do it with him. It is strange that they got so much of it in March, and it probably would be their last snowfall. I'm just realizing how out of shape I am. Do you think I'm starting to get a gut, like a bad one? Aren't you on the thinner side for being a bear nearing 30? Cameron makes a point of looking at Devin's midsection, then prods at it, making the bear huff. Whoa, it's kind of squishy. You caught me by surprise, and you just got done saying I wasn't fat. You're not fat, you're a bear. I just didn't think that I'd feel the pudge around your coat. Cameron tries again, but as expected, Devin is tensed up, and there's a little squishing to be had this time. Let's sit down. Devin points to a spot on the bench where the snow had already brushed away. Probably another couple enjoying the snow.
Hey, I hope I'm not worrying you.
Devin closes his eyes in guilt, taking a deep breath. No, I'm just worried about different things. I'm happy to be out here walking with you. It's good for the gut anyway.
I'm getting chubbier too, you know. It happens, and I love your body. If you want to fool around tonight, I can have a closer look.
Only if I have a look at you too.
Deal. And if we deem each other too chubby, we can renew our gym membership and go on a diet or something.
Devin finds it strange how the Cameron's usually the one cheering him up now. But the bear feels the coyote's head twitch against him, and a remnant of a reminder of what they went through the past few years. It also makes Devin realize the coyote is worried about him, and the bear wishes he wouldn't be. Gently, he leans in to nuzzle Cameron. As he kisses his coyote, he realizes that this is a good moment in his life. A day he'll look back on fondly. A day he'll look back on for comfort when the harder days inevitably come. Devin glances up at the temple they're sitting across the street from. I always wondered what that golden dude with the stick is doing up there. It takes Cameron a few seconds to understand what Devin is talking about.
The guy on the top of the Mormon temples? That's the angel Moroni, and he's holding a horn. He buried then. Wait, what? Oh, he buried and then helped recover the golden plates.
How do you know that?
Some Mormon friends told me.
Oh, Cody the bull?
Yeah.
Do you thinking about converting?
Maybe if they ever become okay with this.
Cameron leans over close to Devin again. Devin smiles as they hold each other for a while. The coyote's head twitches against Devin again, but Devin knows to wait until the canine is ready to tell him what's on his mind.
Devin, did you ever find what you were looking for?
Devin immediately knows what Kevin is referring to, and it makes his stomach twist to the knots.
I'll only bring it up this once, but I keep thinking about why we went in the first place. I just wonder if you were able to, figure stuff out.
Devin stares down at Cameron, knowing that he's being genuine, hoping that Devin somehow found some peace in that hell. And even though the coyote isn't intentionally pointing out Devin's cascade of failures into catastrophic, unrecoverable disaster, he feels it. I figured out that it doesn't matter. It isn't worth finding out, and that I need to focus on us. Devin feels the string of tears in his eyes, but forces it back. I figured out I made a huge mistake, and deeply hurt my friends.
Brian hurt us.
Cameron says it almost instantly.
You just don't seem as happy or as outgoing as you used to be. I know you're really busy with school, with work, and just got your master's degree, which is cool, but you seem...
Hey, it's like what you said. We change. It's not really a divide, right? It's like chapters in our lives. We change with each one. The last one we went through was brutal. There will be good changes in the next ones. Oh, Devin. Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet Devin. Brian's back, baby. No, hey. It's never over, Devin. Anyway.
Yeah, but nothing stays the same. We don't fully recover or become who we are again. And still, we always want to go back to how it used to be.
Devin feels a twinge in his chest, thinking about what life would be like if he had made the right turn. It's just how they say you can never go back home again, because home isn't just a place, but it's people. And it's a certain time. And when it ends, it ends. You can never go back. Baby, I love you so much, and it sounds dumb as hell, but I can be your home. I'll be around as long as you want me to be, so you can always go home. I always will. Sorry for being such a downer. I honestly feel at home with you. You're the only home I've got, but you know what's weird? I sense a lot from that temple, and I sensed it in other spiritual places too, like those Buddhist shrines we saw downtown, and even those little shops where you see mediums and psychics. It feels like they're taking in energy and letting energy out too, like a portal. Huh? What do you think that means? I guess that there's hope for everyone. Lupita, Artie, and you and me. And that maybe instead of nothing, there's... Devin, overwhelmed with grief, happiness, love, and lost, kisses Cameron. They kiss for a long time, and Devin desperately hopes Cameron is right. Because more than anything, he wanted to start fresh again and do it right. For now, though, he's here with his husband, sitting and watching the snow fall silently, and that's okay. Because whether they disappeared forever or go somewhere else, it'll be together. Devin feels a little hope reignite in his chest. But there might be something. There might be nothing. But he's content to wait and find out. Besides, that will be a long way away, for he's sure. Not until they're 110, after all. The end. Whew, that was a coaster. Very good story. I liked it. It's also, unfortunately, somewhat timely. um, apparently, voting led to things lining up with the vote really well. And unfortunately, some of the symbology of the story definitely is alluding to like things and recovering from really harsh times, and unfortunately, times can come, times can go. Hey, if you're up for it, explanation point, please click the question mark after the credits. $40 ish. Well, if that's the case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chomp some foods and get a drink while that's going. Yeah, I mean, only 2 typos in that whole dang thing. And also, like, I like the cadence. Like, he had good cadence. Like, the intense parts had short, snappy sentences, and I'm gonna go grab the drink, though. It looks like those credits are short. It's a visual novel. Of course they would be, dum-dum. Thanks to all the patrons. I was reading what was on the screen, Strange Love. I was not saying that I had a Patreon. I stopped the Patreon for multiple reasons. Because I don't need your damn money. I've got a job. And I am well off more than any person who's probably watching my dang videos as far as stability goes. Because I know furries always have a hard time. It's always been tougher recently, for sure. Rather you spend your money on yourself, your friends, your family, and everything else. Uh-oh. Here's the question mark. So this is... Did I do it right, or did I do it wrong? Did I do it wrong? Oh, click on Cameron. Got it. The first time I saw something serious was on the day I turned 8. My mom had brought me to this old handheld and a few games to go with it. Even though it was generationally out of date and all my friends had the newer version, I was still happy to have it. It was cool to just own something. I was alone. Mom let me stay home from school that day as part of my birthday present. I was on this little sofa, sort of slouched down as far as I could go, practically laying my back on the seat cushion with my head propped up against it. I was playing this game that I couldn't even remember, just staring at the display. Then I saw this weird reflection of the plastic screen, maybe to see because you could actually light it up with the new model did. Anyway, there's this reflecting of something tall and dark on the corner next to me. All I can think is that Mom somehow hung up one of her long jackets or dresses on the floor lamp we have there. But that doesn't make sense, so I look up and to the right, and then I saw it. A face staring down at me. 2 yellow eyes with slits, no muzzle, face flat, and the edges of the mouth curled up in a grin. Its teeth were long and sharp. All of them. Probably a DS for them. No, the DS had backlighting. I think everything past the Nintendo Game Boys had backlighting. At least if I recall. I just know that it wasn't a person. It was a thing, a creature. The yellow eyes were standing out from the back, from the black matted fur that covered its face. I could only see the edges of its mouth because it had on it what I think was a raincoat or something. There was this big collar that was turned up and covered the lower half of its face. And it was tall. Its shoulders and the back of its head and neck were up against the ceiling, so it was like looking straight down at me. The rest of its body was pushed back into the corner next to the sofa, its arms out to the side and pressed to the walls like he's bracing himself. What I think were long black claws stuck out from the openings at the ends of the sleeves, dug into the walls, and for the last few seconds I stared up at it. It didn't move at all, not even a little bit, kind of like it was stuck in a still frame. It's weird seeing something you know shouldn't exist. Like, there's like this extra moment where your brain absorbs what it's seeing. Then inside of making you react right away, like maybe seeing a spider would, there's this extra beat where the brain is really analyzing it.
Like, yep, this is really happening, and it really shouldn't be, but here it is. It's hard to remember exactly what happened next. It just sort of ran, or at least scrambled on all fours, trying to get the hell out of there. I didn't hear anything, didn't feel him move, and I was too scared to look back. I was tumbling out onto the wet grass, because it was cloudy and dizzy, like always, and then onto the little paved walkway that wound its way back through the trailer park. I was just running up that walkway, getting as far away from the thing as I understood as I could. What kind of fucks me up to this day, even worse than when I first saw it, is that when I was a good 3 trailers away, I looked back. Not really expected to see anything, but I did. There, framed in the little window of our trailer, was the flat-faced creature. Still, with the same expression, the collar still up, looking frozen in time. The blinds, which had always been bent and askew, were moving through, though, gently swaying behind its head as it grinned right at me with those yellow eyes. I just sat there at the entrance of the park, shivering in the rain. After a moment, one of my neighbors rushed out of her trailer to check up on me. I told her that I was fine, but wasn't able to tell her why she saw me running out of my trailer, or why I wouldn't go back to my trailer. So, she brought me into hers instead. I guess she thought that maybe someone had broke in and scared me, because when then the cops were there, then my mom was there, and I think she got into trouble for leaving me alone. When the cops left, I got in big trouble, but I was just happy to have people around. Of course, I couldn't tell them what happened, because it couldn't have happened, but it did. And then it happened again, and again, and again. They can't touch you. They can't hurt you. At least not in the physical way. Mentally, it's a different story, which makes sense because all of this is mental. I was messed up way before this thing that I saw in my trailer, which might explain why I saw it. But it was me continuing to see it that traumatized me. I never knew when I was going to go home to an empty trailer or a trailer with the raincoat monster inside it. Eventually, I was able to realize that it didn't really notice me, I guess. The first time, it definitely wanted to make its presence known to me. These days, it kind of just pops up every now and then, and it's really just a cardboard cutout of a spooky character from a horror movie. Yeah, it's still startling when it's at the foot of your bed at 2 a.m., but you learn to live with it. Soon, the cardboard raincoat monster with claws became a man who would walk around our kitchen. He was angry, cursing, throwing stuff around, but I was okay with all of it because he never noticed me. I couldn't say the same about the next thing though, and that was another flat-faced creature. But this one moved around on all fours, with its elbows and legs at an angle like a spider. He would crawl into my bed, over my face, and whisper things at me. That's when it became really hard and things finally broke down after the first time I tried ketamine. For most of my teenage years, I was a weed and opioid kind of guy. Not like heroin or anything, but a pill every now and then to go with the weed so I could really chill. My friends really, my friend, well, he loved that was a bit more intense stuff that really made you feel something on nothing or nothing at all, which is what he promised me before I took it. You'll feel nothing but calm. And then, while I was sitting in my friend's living room, a bear broke through the window. He had a ski mask and he had a gun, and I screamed. And I ran and I called 911. And of course, it wasn't real. I was so out of it, actually, that I thought it was watching someone else do all that. I'm not friends with that guy anymore, but it was a turning point for me. I knew drugs made these hallucinations worse. I knew that the longer I stayed in one place, the more they appeared. And I knew they weren't real. I knew because why was there a creature with a long foot-long claw and a raincoat that stood 10 feet tall? Well, I'm never going to bet such a thing never existed in that trailer. I'm just going to bet that nothing like that ever existed at all. I created it, and it follows me and I ignore it, even though it's starting to get weirdly insistent.
Back in the normal times. Actually, it would be a month before the first case of coronavirus was known in November. You alright, babe? Dev somehow already had his shirt off. Little eager, huh? I don't answer the question as I say, oh, okay, so this is still in Cameron's narration. Okay, cool. I don't answer the question as I slide the shirt over my head and immediately Dev's paws go to feeling out my sides. He's a little buzzed, so I don't think that he's really going anywhere. We just wanted to get away from the party. We wandered around the little forest next to the house. Devin was looking for orbs or something. It started raining, so we ran to the car and decided to wait for Jason to come out so we could leave. Hopefully soon, because this thing, it stands outside the window. It's aware of us. I don't like that, even to this day. Is there something out there or something? Dev looks behind us right at the creature, and a chill runs down my back as he stares face to face with it. It's grinning at him with its sharp teeth and stooped over it deeply because it's too tall. But as usual, Devin doesn't react. It's because he's normal. Are you seeing things again, Cam? Just because you told me it stopped doesn't mean it might not come back. You'd really like that, wouldn't you? Nope. Things are ghost-free. Well, whatever you think they are you seeing things again? I mean, it never goes away. It's just better sometimes compared to others. Dev rubs his bare arm. Ha! Ha! His bare arm! Ha! Anyway, Dev rubs his bare arm, his chest heaving and shuddering as I run my paws up his pecs, squeezing them. I don't want to get you upset, but... I close my eyes, waiting to be upset. He always knows I don't like him treating me like I'm some sort of psychic. I'm just a stupid kid that sees horrible, useless things. But would you at least tell me something that might be important to me? I blink, thinking, then realizing what, or rather who, he's talking about. Oh, well, yeah, of course I would. It's just that I don't really see people. Just things. And not good things. Dev has gone a bit quiet as I rub down his stomach, playing with his fur as the thick layers that come naturally to bears, something that I like. I feel weird doing this while we're waiting for our friend. I mean, it's our car, and we're both 25 and acting like it. Can't wait. We gotta do this before we go home. Usually Dev just liked to be intimate like this, when he could just feel me, but he only grunts as I tentatively open his fly. He doesn't stop me, so I keep going. Well, you know, I was supposed to visit Echo today, but Larry had some problems, or whatever, so now we're at this shitty party, and it's gonna be months before I have a chance again. I shrug, wanting to keep the conversation light. I've seen worse. Parties, I mean. It's a horror genre flick, Strangelove. Of course they're implying that somebody's gonna get something. Before they get something, apparently. Next time, I'm not bringing Larry. It's gonna be me and whoever else wants to go.
I nod for him to go on. Dev sighs in a frustrated way, that his chest expanding against me again. He pulls my paws from his crotch as he holds me, just pressing our bodies together. Obviously, I want you to go, but I don't want you to feel like some kind of tool or something that I'm using. I think it could be a good experience for all of us. I stare back at him. Didn't, like, 10 people die or something? Well, not that, but how things will change if we see something. And what does that mean? That there's not something more. There's something to go after we die. I think hard, trying to choose my words carefully. But how do we know that? Seeing something doesn't really mean anything. I've learned that over time. Just... I just need your help for a few days. I want to know. I need to know where she is. Nowhere. She's dead. She's nowhere, man. I'm sorry. I don't want to do this. It's such a bad idea, but this is important for Dev, as it always has been. So, now that he's finally asking me to go, I can only say... Of course. He grins and lets out a breath like he's relieved. I had no idea he was this tense about it, though I guess my reactions to previous comments about the town told him I wasn't exactly a fan of going. But I could stand a few days of discomfort if Dem finds his answer, but which I really, really hopes he does. Thank you. No problem, man. I try not to jump, because just as I said that, for the first time in my life, I see the cardboard creature move. Mwahaha. Honey, whatever happens, just play dead, okay? No matter what. No! Cameron? Echoes aren't hard to find. They're everywhere. But some are worse than others, and Cameron knows which ones need to taking care of the most. Devin! A flash of light, one I've gotten used to seeing explodes behind my eyelids, along with an explosion of pain in my face and head. Devin! Shit! A dull, blunt thud resonates through my stomach, and a familiar ache seems to hollow it out completely, sending all the breath I have held inside blasting out in a wheezing groan. Then, the familiar thump of bone on pavement as my legs seem to turn to jelly as I go down to my knees, head bowed, gasping for breath. Next time, you're dead, you fucking creep. Watch out! One of my paws, folded over my stomach as I grip my gut, reaches for the grip of my pistol strapped to my waist. I look up and see a scruffy-looking raccoon, the mask of his facial fur barely visible in the soft yellow glow of the streetlights. He's got his foot drawn back, and looks like he's about to kick me again when I'm down, but his buddy, a squat muscular rat, probably the guy who hit me last, holds him back. I hear sirens, man, let's go! The cat raccoon looks back at me, almost as he thinks I'm one that called the cops. But he moves on, spitting on me as he goes. I lower my head, even more as I hear them scurry off, towards an area behind the warehouse they'd been beating me up against. Now I'm left alone in the patchily lit parking lot.
the already faint sirens fading away into silence. Well, I'm physically alone.
Are you okay, Devin?
Cameron's voice comes through again, and I can tell he's trying to hold back from sounding panicked. I'm fine, babe. Don't worry. Just need a minute. I send him reassuring thoughts, even though my face comes to rest on the rough gravel and asphalt lot, feeling like myself drool onto it. Cameron goes quiet after that, realizing there's not much he can do except wait. A few minutes later, I grunt and make my way to my feet before looking back one last time. The men had already left in their car, the sounds of the roaring engine fading into the night. The warehouse, though, sits still and silent, gently illuminated by the surrounding streetlights. From one of the top windows I see it. Probably standing on the grated metal flooring I see it, watching me with its red, glowing eyes. The scruffy raccoon punch got me good, right over the left eye. I can already feel it starting to swell, closed, and I head for the medical medicine cabinet. I swallow down 4 ibuprofen and a Tylenol for the throbbing ache that's already established itself firmly in my brain, and I reach for those things because nobody could get any opioids anymore. Thanks, Cameron. Anyway, it's March 2024, don't you know? You gotta go back to ibuprofen and Tylenol.
You're gonna want to eat something with that, Dev.
Don't tell me how to take drugs, opioid.
Trust me, I'm an absolute professional when it comes to taking drugs.
Cameron's feeling of gentle reproach are barely contained under the veil that he's trying to hide them under, and he finally blurts out his concern. He's right, though, and even though the hollow ache in my gut make me not want to even think about food right now, I grab a piece of bread and force it down with a few bites. Veil. Another term we've come to describe something we don't understand. In this case, it's just this sense of feeling we both get when hiding thoughts and feelings from one another. It's like a metal shield, always up and rigid, ready to come down if you let it. It sounds bad, but when someone's living in your head 24/7, you need some privacy, and so we automatically hide ourselves in our veils most of the time. It's not like I'd prefer silence, though. Cameron's thought voice is quiet and gentle, but especially now that he's trying not to upset me, which he shouldn't have to have been doing. I fucked up bad this time. Caught and got my ass kicked. I'd been staking out that spot for weeks. Cameron had noticed an echo in the upper windows of the random warehouse in the city's industrial park district. One that was, for whatever reason, really strong. From what I was able to gather, they were using it as some sort of something. Something definitely bad, because the few times I'd gotten close to the warehouse, I'd heard faint, distant screaming. I gathered enough to know for sure it's not organized crime or gang related. It's something much more strange and sinister, and it's always when it comes to echoes. I actually wasn't able to gather much except that the rat was the main source, and that the one that needed to be dealt with somehow. So if you haven't guessed, this is the alternate timeline that living. Yeah, I guessed that. I accidentally thought like it was kind of weird because it was like there was a slight glimpse of it in the main story of this alternate timeline, and then like it ended with like actually going on the one where he didn't die. Not that it matters now. After catching me, they'll definitely be moving their base of operations.
The swelling is really bad, Devin. Maybe we should try putting some ice on it?
The last sentence is poised as a question again, apparently worried about how I'd react. Yeah, I know. I grab a bag of ice from the cabinet and open the freezer before pouring several ice chunks in it. You know, I'm not mad, Cameron. You are. The tone in his voice says it all. I pulled the cold compress in my left eye, sighing loudly. Not at you, so why are you upset? The entire situation and how stupid it is. And I can feel how you feel. No matter how many barriers I put up, you rub off on me, and I can't help it. I winced, my eyes closed, thinking about all the times Cameron had described what it's like being stuck in my head. How when I get gloomy, so does everything around him. Something else to feel like a complete jackass about. Yeah, well, I can't always control how you feel, I know. But that's why I'm trying to hold it off, I'm sorry. No, I mean... I huff loudly in frustration. I honestly wish I could be happier for you, so you're more comfortable living up there. It's silent for a few moments. I wish there wasn't a silence because I know Cameron's thinking about. It could be, if you give up on this, whatever the hell this is. I feel a flash of annoyance, and this time it is directed at Cameron. This is helping other people not have to go through what we went through, Cameron. This is stopping years-long cycle of pain and suffering. That's what the hell this is. Haven't we suffered enough? Maybe. Who else is in this position? What can do what you can do? I'm not sure we're making a difference. We clearly don't know what the fuck we're doing, Dev. My heart sinks, realizing how much Cam might not actually want to do this. The one thing that's kept me going for the past 4 years. You're the one that suggested this, you know. I say it in my head, the way I were to do in public, or just as I don't want to say it out loud. I know, but I didn't realize it would become so dangerous. That if things did get physical, we'd just move on. But I didn't realize you'd... Cameron searches for the right words. When you set your mind on something, it's hard to get you to change it. That's dangerous and stupid. And that fucking gun you have strapped to your hip all the time doesn't help. I need protection. Of course you do. But what if they saw it? What if you actually do have to pull it out? What then, Devin? Then I have to, Cameron. I looked down at my phone. And I actually did, for a second. Thank you, game. Even though that's not what my buzzer sounds like. I still looked down. You caught me, jerk. Arturo. Shit. Honey, maybe you can just ignore it for now. We need to talk. He'll understand. We planned this call ahead by like 3 days, so I can't ignore it. But you can. He'll understand, honey. But I've already made up my mind and pick it up. Honey. He doesn't use pet names that much, but when he does, I know he's really concerned and upset. His quiet, meek objection almost makes me stop, but I have to. The almost physical pull of two people who are very important to me stretching me in opposite directions. Maybe sensing my rising frustration and stress, Cameron backs away in my mind, and the way he does whatever I need for privacy. It's another level to the veil barrier. The feeling is similar to what it would have felt like if he'd just left the room. I put the phone up to my muzzle, wincing as it presses against my bruised face. Hey man, what's up? I quickly made a final aside to Cameron before Arity responds. After this, hun, I promise we'll talk more. Cameron doesn't respond, but I know he hears me. Then Arturo's cheerful, slightly accented voice comes through the speaker. Yo, how's it going, man? I press my index thumb pads to my right paw against my brows, trying to tame the ache that seems to echo through my head. I'm doing okay, all things considered. Jesus Christ. Apparently he hasn't completely left the room.
I ignore Cameron for now. Most of my focus is on trying to sound as okay as I just told Arturo I was. Hope those things aren't too terrible. You sound awful. I can sense that he's implying with those words. Oh, sorry, that was Arturo. I'm so used to talking like Arturo's such a side character now that I'm so used to doing like light color, Cameron, red color, Devin, like blue, Arturo. Oops, my mistake. It probably sounds like I've been crying with a swollen nose and raspy voice. 4 years removed from Echo, and he still knows that I'm struggling. Even Arturo seems to have moved on better than I have, after taking a bullet to the back of his head. Sometimes I can't even tell it's happened. Sometimes I almost forget, but something always reminds me sooner or later. You know, like a coyote talking in your head. That'll remind me. I know Artie never forgets, how could he? But I can't read minds like Cameron. No, not too bad. The silence that follows is an awkward one, which isn't normal when Artie is involved. The silence part, I mean. But it feels like he's wanting to say something to me that he's nervous about. Are you okay? I feel a jolt of worry of concern. Last Artie and I talked, he mentioned the things a bit strained between him and Maria, mainly because he was having a hard time trying to take care of her the way he used to. If they're going to split up, I don't know what Arturo is going to do. I'd offer for him to live here, of course, but that would make things difficult between me and Cameron for a ton of different reasons. Yeah, I'm okay, yeah. Do you need a place to stay? No. Me and Maria are doing all right now. It was just a few weeks ago that things got a bit hard since we were both going through our own shit at the same time. Yeah, that sounds miserable. You just need someone to talk to right now? Yeah, that, but it's about me. I furrow my brows at that, wondering how Cameron would know that with Arturo being so far away. Maybe a vision or something? He's right though, and usually is. I've had something. He's stuttering becomes more pronounced, which means to mean he's more flustered or emotional. I stand more upright, muffled the grunt that comes from my mouth as the sore stomach muscles tense up. Hey dude, it's all good. Tell me what's on your mind, no matter what it is, okay? That seems to calm him down a bit, and he takes a deep breath. How are you doing with being alone? A little. Yeah. I'm managing. You ever thought of seeing people? If Cameron's listening in, he doesn't say anything. No, not yet. Just as I'm about to talk about how work's got me busy to date right now, I hear something that makes me freeze. Something's been bothering me a lot lately. It's about Cameron. I'm sorry. As the words dissolve into sobs. Shit. I feel a pang of frustration followed by even more guilt. In the past, I jumped at opportunities like this to be there for people that might need me, but I'm just not good as I used to be. Cameron, Arturo, my parents, my work colleagues, they can all tell. In fact, Mom was the last person to encourage me to start looking to go out again, even saying the gay scene is better out in Fort Allen, and to maybe just come back home, which made me laugh and want to cry at the same time. I feel Cameron's presence running through me, though. You're doing good, Devin. You're doing good, Devin. You know that. Forgot this was going on. I hope I have helpful dreams and we're in the epilogue right now.
The alternative timeline epilogue, I should say. I pressed the speaker closer to my ear. Hey, dude, what's wrong? Through hitching sobs and stutters, Arturo talks about the last time he heard Cameron's voice. About he heard him begging Brian not to do whatever it was he was going to. Sometimes I wonder if I had done something. He might have been able to get away or something. I was slow because of the gunshot wound. So maybe he could have. I don't know. I'm sorry. This is something I haven't heard before, and in the back of my mind, I wonder why Arturo would tell me this. Feelings, smells, thoughts, tastes, everything from Echo comes back, reminding me of being trapped in that van while it was all happening. While Artie and Cam were being hurt in ways that can never be fixed or undone. I feel my heart rate rise as my breath becomes heavier and adrenaline starts coursing through my body. Cameron, still there for me even though he made a point of leaving earlier, senses my confused mix of anger, grief, and guilt for feeling this way when Arturo is trying to open up to me. Thanks, Mats. It's okay. It's over. I'm fine. It would have gotten us both killed if he tried anything. I just can't help feeling awful about it. That you lost the guy you were that close to. I swallowed hard, mentally willing my voice to stay steady before I started to talk again. Don't worry about me, Artie. And try not to blame yourself for any of that. I'm the one who asked you to come, remember? This shouldn't have happened in the first place, and I'm sorry. That's word for word what I expected you to say. It's just you seem distant lately, like the past year. We used to talk all the time. As Artie goes on about how I used to be, I feel a surprising urge to tell him something about what's happening, about how Cameron is still with me, and now. The thought is strong, unwavering, and it overwhelms my mind to the point where I'm losing my train of thought. It's happened before, but not like this. It makes me wonder how strong his own thoughts actually are, if that he can completely take over if he wanted. Either way, I can't tell Artie after a message as powerful as that, so I settle for something more vague. Listen, man, all I can say is that something is going on, but I'm not ready to talk about it just yet. And I promise I'll tell you someday, alright? I'm surprised at how relieved Artie sounds to hear that. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Take your time, man. And sorry for unloading like that about what happened in that town. I won't bring it up again. I just needed, I don't know. I get it. And if you need to talk again, I'm here for you. Same. I was actually thinking maybe we could meet up again. Maybe go off-roading. Or even try some rock crawling in your new Jeep. That makes me smile. That despite what happened to him, he's still wanting to do shit that we used to do. Shit that could get him killed. Yeah, let's not go crawling through any more caves, thank you. But if it makes him happy. You know, we should. Maybe over the weekend. I feel a slight pang of jealousy and maybe some resentment, and it takes me time by complete surprise. Sweet! Might have to be the weekend after, since Maria and I have a date trip weekend thing going on. I'm confused and then shocked when I realize the feelings came from Cameron. It takes a good few seconds before I get my thoughts straight again. Weekend after? Sounds good to me. Talk a bit more, but Cameron's simmering irritation becomes too much to ignore, and after a while, I make an excuse about needing to prepare dinner before hanging up. It's partially true, but I really only use the microwave these days. I can at least be happy knowing that Arturo is sounding way better than anything we first started talking. By the way, it is March of 2024. You are not using a microwave, good sir. You are using the air fryer. That's what you're doing. Or like that, like literally, like I think the interesting thing is like the microwave. I have found as a single person who doesn't cook all that much. Um, is that I've used my microwave less and less over the years. I usually use the oven for cooking something frozen, or if I'm cooking something in air fryer, or I even have like a little like induction heat pan thing that I can do. Like you don't. It's interesting like how much I've avoided the microwave over the past several months. Cameron stays silent as I actually do start to make food. An unappetizing plastic bowl of seasoned frozen vegetables. I'm still baffled at Cam's strange reaction when I was on the phone with Artie, but I know to wait for him to gather his thoughts before trying to talk to him. I subtly project the feeling of me being tired, hoping it will make the coyote take some pity on me whenever it is he's whatever it is that's pissing him off. He's keeping it tightly guarded though. As I open the packaging in the bowl, I think I hear something in the house, and my ears perk up at the sound. Any movement. No one's here, Devin. Just a little cautious is all. Nothing wrong with that. Not usually, but paranoia can drive anyone insane. I poke some holes in the plastic wrap to vent the bowl before throwing it in the microwave and starting it. I don't have much of an appetite. My guts are still queasy after getting beaten up. I gently feel around my face with a paw, finding where the swelling is most painful around my left eye. Gingerly, I apply the compress to it, a little surprised by how much it has swelled up between the fight and getting here. You were talking on the phone for over half an hour. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Cameron. So, now you're mad at me? No. Because I'm trying to fucking help. Well, it doesn't help when you're pissed off about something that you're hiding from me. I'm not pissed off. I'm stressed out and worried that what just happened to you. I'm fine. Getting hit in the head is never fine, Devin. Well, it is this time. Besides, I'm talking about what happened with Arturo just now. What? What? That I didn't want you to talk to him so you could start treating your injuries. I'm starting to realize he's not going to tell me what the problem is. No, you're mad that after I considered telling Artie about our situation. Of course I got mad. I wince as Cameron's thought echoes in my head, making my headache throb even more. The next thoughts are less thunderous, under control, but still angry. Devin, I don't want people thinking you're crazy. And I especially don't want anyone knowing about what you do. You could get yourself arrested or killed. I wonder if he's mainly implying that I could get both of us arrested or killed, which is sort of worse. But I don't need to get myself distracted. Something's not right. Artie believes in this stuff. I mean, not this situation exactly, but he's really spiritual and believes in psychics and mediums. This is very different. It's not that big of a leap. Besides, if you used your clairvoyance to show Artie that at least some of what I'm saying is true, that could be a good starting point. Devin, bringing Artie into this is only going to make things way more complicated than they already are. You can't trust Artie. With that mouth of his? I bristle a bit as Karen points out Artie's uncanny knack for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. He doesn't fuck around with serious shit like this.
But how is he even going to help us? Like I said, it makes things so much harder for if even one person knows.
I'm realizing where this conversation is going, and I try to keep my thoughts under control, to keep them from wandering. Most of my thoughts are hidden from Cameron, unless I intentionally project them out to him. But if they're strong enough, he picks up on them. This time, though, we both seem to know the same page despite not having to read minds. It's lonely, alright. Just being able to talk to someone would make things.
You just need someone to talk to.
It almost hurts how cold he's being. Even when he gets upset or huffy, there's still a warmness to him. It makes me feel like things are okay, but that's gone now. I try to remember if that has happened before. Cameron is always nice and gentle after I've been through, but something rough like this, but this time. I keep these thoughts very quiet as I close my eyes in frustration. The aches of my body making things so much more agitating and distracting. Listen, Cam, if you're just jealous because I want to hang out and be closer,
Jealous?
please, Cameron, my head.
I'm scared. I'm trying to look out for you because you won't even do that for yourself.
Well, that's what it felt like. I felt it when Arturo was just talking about hanging out over the weekend.
Fine. Maybe I'm a little jealous. But it kind of fucking hurts when you realize you're not enough for your boyfriend and he has to rely on some straight guy to make him feel good. Oh, there's the third error. Some straight guy to make him feel good.
What the hell? I'm angry but also baffled at how nasty he's being. This isn't like Cameron at all, and at least I don't think so. This has never come up before. Well, that straight guy almost lost almost everything trying to save us. Besides, I'm not into him like that at all. And he's definitely not into me. You know that. And you'll be there the whole time. This conversation, what we're arguing about, it's all so surreal. Since when did Cameron say stuff like this or even feel this way? Was this always the case?
You're oversimplifying things. Make me sound crazy. Obsessive boyfriend so you can just justify doing things that are stupid and dangerous.
Is it really stupid and dangerous considering everything else I'm doing?
I just need some fucking peace and
I just need some fucking peace and quiet tonight, please. I think out that last part clear and loud in my mind, and I immediately regret it.
fine. I'll give you your space and you can do whatever you want. Bye, Devin.
Oh, come on, Cam. I'm really tired and. He must have gone far into the place where where he knows when he's angry, but right now I can't feel anything from him. I wait in silence for a while and then sigh and in a way that makes it sound like I'm irritated, but it's mostly covering up a slow simmering anxiety. I wonder how long it'll be before he decides to come back. No matter how much I try to pretend, though, I can't shake the feelings of deep emptiness. This is something I haven't felt in years, not since going into the mines back in Echo exactly 4 years ago now. I'm alone. Wait, Cameron? Cameron, are you there? The feeling of being completely alone in my head is something I haven't felt since before I killed Brian. Cameron? Can you let me know you're there at least? Just one sign and I'll leave you alone. My voice sounds hollow in the empty space. Cameron? Are you there? No response except the microwave. I tried not to panic and instead grabbed a fork to prod at the bowl of mushy, unappetizing vegetables, the smell overwhelmed by garlic. This isn't funny at all, Cam.
Actually, it's kind of fucked up and pretty cruel too because I didn't even do anything wrong. I wait a little longer, knowing that those words would definitely trigger Cam to come back. But when he doesn't, I finally start to panic. After about 5 minutes, I drop the fork into the bowl and look up. Cameron, you're really scaring me right now. Can you at least let me know you're here somehow? Anything? Empty. Because I'm starting to freak out for real if you don't say anything to me, baby. Silence. That silence seems to become tangible, blanketing me with a feeling of suffocation. Cammy, baby, please. Over the next 3 hours, I go from panic to anger to grief back to panic, and then anger and grief again. How could he do this to me right now? How could he? Well, if he doesn't want to be around me, then I'm going to have to do the stuff he doesn't like me doing. I pull out an old bottle of bourbon and I start drinking. If Cameron saw me doing this on a mostly empty stomach, and after getting hit in the head, he would step in, no question, but he doesn't. After waiting for almost an hour, I head to bed, drunker than I've been probably since back in college. I curl into a ball, hugging Cameron's pillow tightly, silently begging him to come back. It's then I start to process the idea that he could actually be gone. Cameron never said he could just leave, and he's never done it before. Maybe he doesn't even know how to come back. Silence, begging isn't enough, and I mumble my coyote's name into the pillow over and over, hoping that if he's here, he'll somehow see how pathetic I look and come back. But he doesn't. Maybe somehow this isn't real because none of it feels real. Maybe this is feeling of disbelief and devastation that's been with me since Echo has been a dream, and I'll wake up back in 2020, back with Cameron next in the bed next to me. I'm lucky I'm so drunk because I don't know how to deal with this if I'm sober. For now, I just cry myself to sleep. So when's your birthday? December 21st, you? October 18th. So I guess we don't have to worry about birthdays anytime soon. I hear a piano playing, but with the faint sounds of a radio in the background. A familiar warm feeling of the good times, before the terrible changes. I'm standing in the doorway of one of the musical classrooms, the one that Cameron likes to go to in the early evenings so that he can play on the grand piano. It's interesting being in his world. I haven't spent much time outside the engineering building since finishing my general studies, but being here, looking around at all the instruments, I appreciate it all a bit more compared to the last time I was in this building. When I took intro music theory a few years ago. Those are the good times, but I know I won't know it not until Echo. See? Piano is way easier for me. I thought you sounded just fine on guitar. It was his voice I really liked, though. Rough and smoky, but delivered with a smoothness that reminded me of an old black and white movie. 2 weeks ago, and I'm already cautiously hoping this relationship will turn into something more. Cautious because Jesus is still fresh in my mind. The relationship had only lasted a few months, but I wasn't ready for the rejection that I didn't even see coming. It worries me a little that this canine might do the same thing. For now, though, he's smiling as he continues to play. I could see the red tinging the skin inside his ears, making me think he's probably feeling the same way I did when I was showing him the advanced math and physics class I was taking. But I am impressed. The coyote's innate ability to seemingly pull beautiful and catchy melodies together seems to be impossible, as Cameron said my coursework looked. Where do we even start? Cameron looks up from playing. Like, just the music in general. How do you come up with it on the fly like that? Oh, well... Cameron scoots over as an invitation for me to sit down, and I do. Everyone's different, obviously, but I guess once you really learn how music works and combine that with the music you listen to, you can just sort of... Again, his fingers play effortlessly across the keys. Something tells me my limited music library wouldn't give him the experience I would need to be able to do this. Cameron had already teased me about it, about listening to dad rock. He quietly showed me that he also listened to the same dad rock too, but he listens to everything from rock to pop to jazz to classical. He enjoys it all. It had left me feeling flushed and embarrassed, even though there wasn't any good reason to feel that way. Now that I think about it, I realize that I've embarrassed myself in front of Cameron quite a few times now, and I'm not sure if that's a good sign or not. Like, maybe I'm just paying more attention to what I say and do in front of him. Already walking in on us fucking was mortifying, no matter how I look at it, but Cameron had laughed about it afterwards, and he even talks to Artie. They get it wrong really well. That's when Cameron suddenly stops playing, looking at the clock above the classroom door. Well, they said my song could come on any time after 5, but you know, they might not even end up playing it. And there's the pessimism I've come to expect. It's not bitter or upset. He's just lowering his expectations to avoid disappointment, which is kind of the opposite of how I think of things. They will. Cameron shrugs, looking unbothered. I'm not exactly sure what it is about him making us all feel so important. He's cute, funny, smart, and we have longer, deeper conversations than I've had with anyone else. His songs sounded a little angsty, but through their dark humor, there was sadness and pain in the lyrics. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off, saying he was exaggerating in the songs. Everyone exaggerates. He's scared to tell me about his past, and that makes me a little scared too. But maybe with some time, once I figure him out more. But something is telling me this is going to turn into something much more. Like, this is more than just a college fling, more than just a boyfriend. It's almost like I can see the future. Well, we can, you know. Huh? Cameron starts playing again, this time with a different, but less gentle and pretty melody. See the future. Besides, this has already happened. It's me, Devin. There's a slight laugh in his voice that sounds more surprised than anything. I let my mind fall back into the current, confused, traumatized, and angry mindset I seem to always be in now. But you left. I felt it. I actually don't know what happened, but I didn't like it. Everything was dark and quiet, and when you were dreaming, and now I'm here. You're back with me? I think so, yeah. I sit on the bench next to Cameron, reaching out to touch him. He's solid, and through his sweatshirt, I could feel his slender frame. Yeah, alternative timelines and the good and bad ending. Oh, that was done by the movie Clue. Only this one's 2 endings instead of like several different ones from one from one focal point. But the focal point on the other one was kind of about at the climax, basically. Yeah, it was literally at the climax was the focal point and division point. Like, my assumption is that Brian, even after he successfully killed Cameron, that the recoil from the shotgun probably still killed him either way. I think Devin died. I think he drank himself too much and probably took something too much, and now he's just now he's not dreaming, he's actually gone. He's real. We hug. We kiss. It's just like how it used to be. How does this feel so real? Is this really a dream? A half dream, I think. This has happened a few times before, like I visited you when you were dreaming, remember? Like what happened in Echo? That was more like a nightmare. This is a good dream. Cameron continues playing on the piano. I don't know. You have this beacon like quality about you that no one else does. I. I think I'll always be able to find my way back. I kiss him again. Can we not go back? I want to stay here forever. We've got time. As long as we don't try to wake up too hard, we might even end up right back here again. If things line up right. But what if we don't? Then we'll stay here as long as we can and not worry about it. I'm reminded of the other qualities about the coyote that I love. The way he's often so stressed and full of anxiety, but suddenly surprises me with his durability and bravery, especially when it comes to helping others. I just wish he'd remember more of it when it comes to himself. I relax a bit as the warm late afternoon light continues to pour into the room, lighting up the shiny instruments and dust motes that swirl around us. I could see the campus grounds are empty and not bustling with the usual combination of after-class hangouts and studying. Next up, we have a new song on our very own Cameron Wilson, a junior here at Pueblo. The voice is faint, but almost covered up by static. Called When We Had Everything. Cameron smiles at me and I smile back. I can remember this exact moment, the way Cameron had almost yelped in surprise and excitement at hearing the name of his song come up. Instead of listening to the song we just made out. Man, we sure were horny back then. Back then? But Cameron doesn't say it. His mouth doesn't move, at least, and his voice is different, maybe a little deeper. Mainly, though, it comes from behind me. The Cameron I'm looking at reacts the same way, spinning to looking back, and I do the same. In the split second I see it, I know what I'm looking at. Cameron had told me about it, how it's been following him around since Echo, how it's sort of an echo itself, one that manifested after Brian murdered him. We don't know what it wants, but it hurts my Cameron, reminds him of the pain he went through, and as I look at this fake Cameron, I feel that old anger. The same strange, cold fury that had blossomed in my chest after seeing what Brian had done. How it overrode the shock and incoming grief just long enough for me to finish the old bear. I feel my teeth draw back in a feral snarl warning this echo back, and it reacts by looking at me with fear and sadness. For some reason, that only makes me angrier, and I take in everything that makes this coyote so different from the one I know so well. There's a glazed look in his eye, like it just woke up, and its build is all wrong, thicker and pudgier than the Cameron had ever been. No, this is some warped, sick creation. It's not even alive, but I know it can still hurt us. It's too late, though, as I hear strange gurgling hiss next to him. I look. When Brian shot Cameron in the face, half of it had been blown away, splattering the wall of the cave and filling it with a smell that I will never forget. Even now, it fills my nostrils, and I just sit there, shaking and staring at Cameron, seeing his wide, twitching eye like he's alive, and he's alive and feeling it. But now, I get to see him in agonizing detail without blood and gore covering up the rest of him. Now, I wonder if that was somehow alive and feeling the pain in the seconds after the shotgun blast, when I couldn't see any part of his face clearly. Stop! I yell at the echo and the dream to make everything stop. I reach out my right paw for Cameron's trembling shoulder, scared to touch him because I'm worried I'll make the pain worse. Even now, in this dream world, I could see the scars just visible through the fur on my right forearm, where Cameron's jaw and teeth had been embedded. They'd had to be surgically removed, and all I can remember is that the nurse, if I could keep the teeth once they'd been taken out. I don't know what I'd have left of Cameron then, even though he was already talking to me, trying to make me calm. He's not real, Devin. I lash out the direction of the echo, and I feel my fist hit something soft, and I hear a gasp, and suddenly I'm back in bed, feeling the beginnings of a pounding, awful hangover, and I don't pay any attention to it right now. Cameron, baby, you there? Please. I'm here. Don't worry. Oh, thank God. Are you okay? What the hell did he do to you? I don't know. I'm okay now, okay? I won't leave like that ever again. Are you in pain? Not anymore, actually, yeah. Ham, what the hell? How much did you drink? Babe, I thought I fucking lost you. I'll be here as long as I can, Devin, and I'll help you find those echoes, if that's what you really want. Now get up and get hydrated and eat something, please. Of course, honey, of course. I get out of bed, the aches and pains from the things that had happened to me over the past day forgotten. Did he forget to eat his vegetables? I chat with Cam as I make something a little more heartier, drinking a bottle of water along the way. Cameron is back to his old self, and I realize that's all I want. No matter how much these echoes try to torment and hurt us, we're still together. Echo couldn't change that then, and I sure as hell won't let it change that now. And that's that, guys. You said 40 minutes for me. It took me an hour, probably because I was interjecting a lot. Anyways, that was really very good. That was a very good story. Even though it got really, for me, it got pretty intense in that third episode. I was kind of glad that this phone call kind of interrupted me a bit, because I was feeling like, oh man, this is rough. But I think that the roughness of it was necessary to kind of highlight the relationship between the two characters and the trials and tribulations, and it makes it a lot more of an impact on them getting through it. Yeah, that's sort of the echo, I think, that it is, right? The idea of the echo is like it's like just because somebody has changed or become different than we used to be. Like praying for old times is never great because it causes like the hauntingness of it was. But anyways, thank you guys very much for watching tonight. Next time we're going to be going back to Super Animal Royale. At least as far as I'm aware. Ramir, did you said something about it? But yeah, we'll get that prepared, and next week we'll vote on the game that we play next. Thank you guys very much for watching and getting through this intense story of Arches, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good night.